Subi could have left, and honestly, he wanted to, but something about this maze felt different. Last time was just a passing scene, but this time, the script was whispering of deeper twists ahead. He couldn't shake the feeling that walking away now meant missing out on crucial panels of the plot. Even without that, there was no way he'd just hand over the spotlight. So, after tossing a casual line to lighten the mood, he looked at Ling Yu and said it plainly. The token belonged to her. She had been marked by Queen. Ling Yu, ever unreadable, gave a rare smile, subtle but captivating, and credited him for the clever way they defeated the Queen. Subi just shrugged, grinning with that signature rogue charm. Luck beats strength sometimes, right? He told her if she didn't want the token, to toss it to Si Xiaohuo's crew. He wasn't going anywhere. Then came the wink, the grin that said he was here for the show, not the glory. Ling, you nearly laughed for real, coughed to cover it, and left it at, we'll see. As their footsteps echoed into the shifting maze, the path ahead refused to play nice, walls twisted directions, forcing wide detours. But none of that mattered. The story was breathing again. Thanks to Ling Yu's compass, they finally pinpointed the elusive southwest corner, but their relief was cut short by a crackling alert from the walkie-talkie. They were being hunted. The enemy had an ability user who could locate anyone holding clues to the exit. It wasn't about random violence, it was strategy. If they could dominate the exits, they wouldn't need tokens. They'd just wait and steal from those who approached. It was ruthless, efficient, and dangerous. Subi realized they might soon face a real confrontation. He warned the others with a wry smile, but tension simmered. The fight for survival, as Jiang Tianming hesitated, knowing their presence might cause more chaos, Lan Subing's voice suddenly cut in direct and clear. She was with Qi Huang and Feng Lan, offering help. The response? A calm acceptance. They could come. All of them could. A regrouping might even happen. But Jiang Tianming? Best to stay away. If enemies waited at the exit, a crossfire was the last thing needed. By noon, a strange stillness settled in. Lunch was eaten leisurely for one, tense for another. Ling Yu, once silent as shadow, now voiced her thoughts, eyes on the roasted tiger meat. She said it was too quiet, and strangely, it was her speaking that struck harder than her words. A former ghost of a girl, now reaching out. And indeed, she was right. An hour had passed since the last clue, and not a soul had appeared. The silence wasn't peace. In a labyrinth where three factions, including lone ability users, had emerged, the expectation was that they would encounter numerous individuals. But after half a day of wandering, they hadn't met anyone. Something felt off. Let me sense, one of them muttered, releasing their mental energy. The maze's high walls made it difficult to perceive the surroundings with mental energy. These thick, towering walls heavily suppressed the energy spread, requiring a maneuvering strategy to sense anything specific. But controlling the mental energy around such barriers was far from simple. After a while, the user guided their energy along the corridor, chewing on roasted meat as they focused. 10 minutes later, they opened their eyes, their expression tense. We're surrounded. The other person, sharp-eyed, immediately inquired, "The radicals? How many?" "Probably them. 5 in total, 3 ahead, 2 behind," came the reply, a headache settling in. The 5 were all ability users who could enter this level of space. She didn't need any introduction. She was a war type through and through, the kind who thrived in chaos and crushed opponents in large-scale battles without blinking. He'd once overheard someone say that by the time she hit senior year, she wouldn't even need to step outside school grounds, just train quietly, held back like a secret weapon. Him? Sure, his skills were solid, but against 5 ability users, not a chance. He had his gears, but abilities came in all flavors, and any one of theirs could be downright weird. His best bet was messing with their destiny compasses, but that trick had limits. He could maybe shift 3 before blacking out. If the 5 came charging, surrender was their only move. But the enemy hadn't attacked yet, and that could only mean one thing. They were already waiting at the exit, net in hand, ready to scoop them up. He sighed. His luck was the pits. Or maybe it wasn't his luck at all. Maybe the real chaos magnet was her. "I can use my ability," she said without hesitation. And that meant one thing. Plague. Airborne or touch-based. Even if it didn't kill, it could still weaken. And weakened enemies Su Bi dismissed the idea of attacking first, confident that if needed, he could vanish behind an invisibility charm and strike with ease, but there was no point. Removing one group wouldn't stop the system from sending more. Instead, they watched from afar, trusting that once reunited with the protagonist team, those 5 shadows wouldn't last long. As they advanced, the fire was put out, and the scout flew ahead. Strangely, the stalkers acted like a shield, drawing danger away. Then the count began to drop. 5 became 4, then 3. Su Bi didn't even lift a hand, yet the enemy thinned themselves out. Only 1 remained. That was enough. He joined forces with Ling Yu to swiftly take out the enemies, then pressed forward without missing a beat. Suddenly, several enormous black birds circled above clear signs they were near the target. Before they could react, the sound of battle echoed from ahead. Only 2 enemies remained, facing off against a trio combat specialist who had the upper hand. As Mutirin stepped on the fallen foes, he looked up and greeted them with relief. Suspicious of their arrival direction, a question arose: wasn't that route supposed to be heavily guarded? But Mutirin explained they sensed movement beyond the corner and waited instead of charging in. With a knowing nod and a smile, he realized their timing was perfect. If those enemies had regrouped, things could have gone. As the group moves toward the exit, the tension is palpable. Si Xiaohua warns Zhou Renji to hold off on using his powerful ability until they've gauged who is the strongest. Zhou Renji, with his grim expression, acknowledges this, but his focus seems heavy, like something weighs on him. His ability, a spatial displacement technique, once required physical contact, but after a month of intense training, he can now activate it remotely, though still with limitations. Curious, the narrator whispers to a companion about Zhou Renji's mysterious mood, and while it's not subtle, no one seems to mind, as they're all enhanced beings. His brooding expression darkens even further after the question, and his companion, in a quiet but tactful response, hints at the loss of someone named Qing Qing, whose disappearance clearly troubles Zhou Renji deeply. Despite his anger at the situation, it's a quiet ache, one that even the seemingly calm Si Xiaohua can't ignore. The situation is fraught, and as they prepare to leave, the tension lingers. Updated, saved memory. A scout using mental energy senses 5 guards around the area, but it's the nightmare birds inside that stand out. These creatures are blocking the exit, and while the 5 guards are easy to deal with, the birds will be a different challenge. The scene opens to a large platform with a black gate and several nightmare birds resting by it. The 5 guards are caught off guard when they see the group, but what's even more bizarre is the absence of the backup team probably dealt with already. Things get weird fast when one of the ability users, armed with a toilet brush, charges in, shouting about how this is the real deal, used in actual toilets. The whole group is thrown off, with even his teammates backing away in disgust, and one teammate warns, "Don't let him near." The ridiculousness of the moment. In the thick of chaos, Zhou Renji defies orders, refusing to activate his ability, not out of fear, but disgust. The idea of swallowing that monstrous opponent and letting him stir things up inside with a brush? No thanks. To make his point, he swallows a weaker enemy instead, locking himself out of his power temporarily. The rest, Mutirin, Ling Yu, and the narrator aren't faring any better. Even Mutirin, a brawler, keeps his distance, and Ling Yu's power is useless here. The narrator tries ranged attacks, but Toilet Brush Guy deflects every gear with absurd precision. Just when retreat seems inevitable, a faint connection is made. A gear grazes the rogue's head, linking to his destiny compass. With a subtle nudge, the pointer shifts. The yellow-haired menace stumbles mid-charge, face draining of color, and crashes hard. Mutirin wastes no time, stepping in with a clean. The moment he collapsed into unconsciousness, a wave of relief swept through the group. That weapon had been an enormous threat to everyone. With the danger neutralized, the remaining trio exchanged tense glances before shouting in unison, "We surrender! We surrender!" Mutirin, with an unsettling calmness, reassured them, "Don't worry, I'll just knock you out gently," and promptly did just that. Zhou Renji, sensing the situation had taken a turn, spat out the last one he'd swallowed and, seeing the others incapacitated, willingly offered his neck for the same treatment. With them out of the way, the focus shifted to the looming nightmare birds. Si Xiaohua, who had dealt with them before, grimaced. "They're tough. high damage, strong defense. Their spiny appearance was menacing, and the sheer number of them promised trouble, especially if the ones above swooped down at the slightest provocation. It was clear they couldn't win this fight. Even the bravest of youths knew their limits. A slight gap in their abilities could spur them to fight, but this gap was far too wide, leaving them paralyzed with doubt. Si Xiaohua, looking at me with hope, asked, "Can you use that skill again?" He had seen me take down the toilet brush guy and knew my destiny-related ability had turned the tide before. With unspoken trust, he looked to me as their only hope. I shook my head. Too many nightmare birds, he could take on 2 or 3, but this swarm would drain his mind dry before he made a dent. Invisibility? Tempting, but his stash was low, and this wasn't worth burning through them. He figured the protagonist squad could handle it. They had to. Right on cue, the leader spoke up. If fighting's not an option, bait and distract. Clever. Use noise or food. Pull the birds away, escape clean. They rolled with the plan. A raised brow? A silent question he'd be the decoy? The others caught on, and the leader confirmed. He'd draw them off from above. The rest would bolt. Objection came fast. One teammate wouldn't abandon him, not for anything. Unless it was a forced choice, he wouldn't sacrifice a friend. The leader sighed. He knew this would be hard to swallow. There's no perfect way, he said. As the group stood near the gate, the air thick with anticipation, Si Xiaohua glanced at his destiny compass. The pointer was skewed slightly to the right, signaling a minor setback his failure to join them. But changing the fate of one person? That was easy. With a flick of the wrist, the compass was altered, and a casual go was all it took. Mutirin hesitated, but trusting the plan, he said nothing. Without a second thought, Si Xiaohua turned and hurried off. The nightmare birds, sensing a shift, flapped their wings and took off into the sky, disappearing in an instant. As the last of them vanished, the group rushed towards the gate. In its center was a slot perfectly sized for their token. With a swift motion, Ling Yu slotted it in, and the gate swung open to reveal a bright red number, 5. 5 can leave, right? Zhou Renji asked eagerly, looking at the others. Their number matched. Probably? Mutirin nodded, confident. Just then, rapid footsteps approached from behind. It was Si Xiaohua, jogging over, a glint in his eyes. Someone else flew up, so I dropped down quick. Everyone turned to me. Before he could say a word, Wu Mingbai's voice crackled through the walkie-talkie with a twist. The exit had changed 3 days ago. That single detail clicked too perfectly, echoing the exact moment they'd left the academy. Until now, everything in the different space had followed a clean logic, acquiring the token, outmaneuvering nightmare birds, even skirting past the radicals, all intense but suspiciously streamlined, like a storyline refusing to show its real plot. Relief and suspicion wrestled in his chest as he realized how little of the core narrative they'd truly touched. Could it be that everything meaningful was reserved for someone else's path? That thought alone felt absurd until the timing lined up too precisely. The exit shift wasn't just a coincidence. It was a whisper from the structure itself, hinting that something or in a world where even coincidence feels scripted, suspicion hung thick. He was nearly certain the gate's shift was the work of the Black Flash. Without prompting, Si Xiaohua asked how he knew. Wu Mingbai stepped forward, no longer comic relief, but now the chronicler of truth, and began his tale. While the others wandered, he had surrendered smartly to the conservatives under siege. His earth element ability made him useful, so they spared him. Among their ranks, he uncovered their fractured ideals. Some trapped by weakness, others by choice. It was through their quiet confessions that he learned this. Different space had long been known a prison of lost connections. There, he found familiar faces. Wu Jin, Zhao Xiao Yu, and after battles against the radicals, trust bloomed. A conservative, trapped 3 months, whispered the truth. The gate had never changed before. Now, all eyes turned to the gate. Black as ink. Do we go in? Zhou Renji asked, fear creeping in. Silence followed. Mutirin glanced at me, desperate. Sube, what should we do? He was hoping my destiny ability and foresight could guide us through this chaos. But after using my powers twice, I was drained. my mental energy running low. I barely managed to open my eyes and muttered, "Smash the watch's glass cover. End it once and for all." Zhou Renjie laughed nervously. "Don't joke. Are we really going to call the teachers over a gate change? We can't panic like that." Si Zhaohua and the others didn't speak, but their silence said it all. They were reluctant to call for help, thinking it was an overreaction. They were used to my jokes, especially when I wasn't in the best mood. But this time, I wasn't kidding. I truly believed that contacting the teachers and escaping was the best option. I understood their hesitation without my perspective. I might have felt as the high-pitched chirps of birds echoed above. Ling Yu's senses sharpened. "They're coming back!" he muttered, eyes darting around. Time was running out. If they didn't act fast, the option to leave would slip away, and returning later meant dealing with even stricter guards. Sijawa gritted his teeth and barked, "Go in!" With no turning back, they stood before the gate, aware that every gate had shifted, making no exit a safe one without involving the teachers. After a quick report on the walkie-talkie, he stepped forward. Ling Yu, with a resigned sigh, followed. The world around them flickered as they stepped through the dark gate, only to find themselves on a small island. Behind them, a thick fog loomed, swallowing the edge of a bottomless abyss. Zhou Renji, daring a glance back, recoiled, holding in a scream at the eerie sight. The group shivered, disoriented by the ominous scene, a night as black as ink, with cold winds and a cliff that seemed to stretch into the unknown, veiled in dense, milky fog. The sparse, dry grass and withered trees offered no solace, only pointing towards a distant black castle, its silhouette looming like a beckoning shadow. It was a place pulled from nightmares, urging. The group stood before the looming castle, silent but aware they had no better choice. Though danger clung to the walls like fog, they agreed to stay the night and decide at dawn. The fire was lit despite the risk. The cold was cruel, and survival came first. Each took a turn on watch, and when it came to Su Bi, drained and restless, he found himself prodding the flames with a stick, wishing for the company of someone who, despite their oddities, always carried stories. Alone in the silence, he stared at the dark outline of the castle. The scene unfolds in a world stripped of color, where the night sky hangs unnatural, pure black with only a single round moon resembling a lantern. There's no warmth or depth, just the eerie stillness of an uninhabited place. As the characters cautiously approach, the sense of danger grows, with strange sounds interrupting the silence. In a tense moment, the ground stirs with an unsettling rustle, and tiny, menacing black beetles emerge, their sharp, tooth-like mouths adding to the ominous atmosphere. The crew, just as startled, questions when they first appeared. The darkness around them is a haunting reflection of a world on the edge, where things don't behave as expected, and every step leads them. With a quick shake of the head, the torch was lit, slicing through the dark, and the ground beneath was cleared with a fiery streak. The smell of burning filled the air. As soon as the dead beetles were scorched, others flooded in to feast on them, devouring their fallen comrades in an instant before crawling toward the group. The beetles kept coming, but they were easy enough to handle, so the group remained relaxed. One of them chuckled nervously, "Good thing Baoju's not here." And another agreed, nodding. She'd freak out if she saw all these bugs. The team kept swatting the critters away, but one couldn't help but ask where they were coming from. Pointing to the edge of the island, it became clear an endless stream of nightmare bugs was climbing up from the depths. As the team continued clearing the bugs, one of them sighed, yawning. "I'm going to sleep." "You guys deal with this, it's easy enough." A quick tug from another member pulled him back to attention. "Stay alert, this isn't nap time." But with the bugs so easy to manage, one couldn't help but wonder. Were they really safe? Or in just 30 minutes, the island's clearing turned into a grotesque sea of bug corpses, black, reeking, and nightmarish. But the horror didn't end there. The insects began mutating fangs, spikes, even spider legs. Fortunately, their cannibalistic instincts remained, thinning their own ranks. The air was so foul it nearly made one of them vomit, but others endured. Amid the stench, awe broke through as someone marveled at the power just unleashed. No battle, no blood, just total annihilation. She rarely used her ability, but today it roared to life, making it clear why it was once called a war machine. Though drained, she looked composed, her pale lips betraying a thrill. This was her first real test, her first true harvest, and she finally understood its terrifying potential. Seeing it unfold was nothing like hearing others praise it. And then came the question. The group stood at the castle door, the heavy weight of hesitation hanging in the air. It was like stepping into a tiger's den. But they hadn't chosen this path, they were forced. The danger was clear, but retreat wasn't an option. A moment of instinct told them to delay. "Let's buy some time," one of them said, suggesting they smash a glass cover. The act would not only trigger a protective shield, but also send a signal to the teachers who might not arrive in time, but at least offer some hope. The decision was unanimous. Everyone, now aware of the threat, chose caution. One step forward, breaking the glass without hesitation, sacrificing himself for the group. A faint blue shield enveloped him, adding a layer of protection, though the cost was all. The space wasn't big, barely enough for 4 slender people. But with Mu-Tiran and Zhou Renji's frames, only 3 could fit, and even then, it was uncomfortable. Si Zhaohua, unwilling to squeeze, made up his mind. "I'll go outside. With my wings, I can last a while." But I stopped him. "Don't forget your ability." I knew from past team battles that his ability attracted nightmare beasts. Using it here could bring danger, and how long could his wings hold up against them? He froze, realizing his mistake. In a place crawling with such creatures, using his ability was suicidal. But how did I know? Only a handful of people knew his secret. So how did I? Si Zhaohua looked at me, half joking, half serious. "You make me think you know all our secrets." I met his gaze, smirking. Maybe I do. Everyone grew quiet, their eyes flickering. After all, who didn't have their own secrets? In a rare moment of excitement, Ling Yu exclaims, "Found it!" Catching everyone's attention. She reveals that she's discovered a virus capable of handling the nightmare bugs they've been facing. The team, aware of her unique ability, Plague, realizes that this is her domain. Ling Yu calmly asks if anyone has sweets or meat, knowing that the virus requires food to spread. Zhou Renji hands her cakes and sausages, and Ling Yu quickly applies her ability. The sweets are ignored, but the meat attracts the bugs, which devour it and begin to sway as they die. As their kin consumes the fallen, the cycle repeats rapidly, spreading the virus further. The bugs, unaware of the fate awaiting them, continue to fall. In just 30 minutes, the island clearing became a grotesque graveyard of insect corpses, black, mutating, and vile. The bugs evolved mid-battle. Fangs, spikes, spider-like limbs, but their cannibalistic instincts remained. The stench was unbearable, and one student nearly lost their composure. But amidst the horror stood Ling Yu, pale yet composed, her ability Plague leaving behind devastation without a single wound. Witnessing this, even the hardened warriors were stunned. It wasn't theory anymore, this was war potential incarnate. As bloodless as it was brutal, this victory unveiled the terrifying scale of her power for the first time. The castle reeked of danger, and he had zero interest in stepping inside. Mu-Tiran, still stunned, shot Ling Yu a thumbs up. This ability was off the charts. But Si Zhaohua wasn't buying into the awe. His eyes stayed sharp. Whoever was behind this clearly wanted them trapped in that cursed place. Just as expected, the moment tension hung in the air, a fresh swarm of bug-like creatures came crawling, relentless, ignoring the bodies of their own kind, rushing straight toward them. Zhou Renji gawked at the mutation and spun to Ling. These things weren't like the others, and if she had another virus card to play, now was the time. But Ling Yu, calm but cornered, admitted defeat nothing left in the arsenal. Her plague-based powers could only be fueled through real-world samples or deep mental cultivation, each one draining, each one earned. She had mastered a virus effective against all insects, something nearly impossible in the real world, crafted specifically for this crisis. But it was her only one. As the swarm kept coming, Si Zhaohua shouted to conserve abilities and mental energy, warning they'd need both inside the castle. Everyone switched to torches, but the bugs didn't slow. He and I took cover behind Mu-Tiran's shield, which barely held while the others fought on. The bugs, mindless and relentless, clawed at the shield but couldn't break through. Half an hour passed, and the creatures had piled up, a grotesque mound of twitching limbs half a meter high. Those behind the shield turned pale from the sight, especially Joe Renji, who gagged at the smell in panic. If this thing breaks, they'll be all over our faces, right? He groaned, eyes shut tight. No one had ever seen a shield crack. No one wanted to find out what it. In the dimly lit hall, the group of 5 stood before the narrow staircases, each carved with strange cryptic symbols. As their eyes scanned the vast, empty space, a heavy silence hung in the air, broken only by the distant echo of their footsteps. After a brief pause, one of them lazily unwrapped a lollipop from their bag, popping it into their mouth. The lack of energy from their journey left them drained, but the sweet burst of sugar provided the jolt needed to stay alert. Offering the candy to the others, they were surprised when each person eagerly took one, draining the stock of treats. With lollipops in hand, they surveyed the room, the castle hall resplendent with gold, but devoid of any life or supplies. At the back of the room, 5 staircases stood in stark formation, each marked with a peculiar sign. Each staircase allows only one person to pass. As the others looked at the sign, one person, with a defiant chuckle, boldly stepped onto one of the staircases, questioning the very notion of limits. In the midst of a seemingly abandoned castle, the group finds themselves surrounded by a vast golden hall that feels both luxurious and empty. Tired and drained from their mental exhaustion, one character lazily unwraps a lollipop, offering the others some. Surprisingly, they all accept, and soon, 5 of them are sucking on lollipops, the scene unintentionally comical. As the sugar kicks in, their energy returns, allowing them to finally take in their surroundings. At the far end of the hall, 5 narrow staircases stand, each labeled with a sign. Each staircase allows only one person to pass. With a smirk, one character suggests, "What if I bring 2 people up?" Without hesitation, he steps onto one of the staircases, his bulky frame barely squeezed through, reckless as ever. "Are you nuts?" Si Xiaohua's voice cracked in disbelief. Joe Renji just shrugged, smug. "Nothing's happened, see?" But as he stepped down, bam! His forehead smacked into thin air. "Ow!" he groaned, blinking at what wasn't there. A wall? An invisible one? His hand reached out, confirming the impossible. "There's a transparent wall here. Si Xiaohua tested it too. Yep, real. 1 staircase per person, apparently." Joe Renji wailed in regret. "If I'd known, I wouldn't have gone up. Now what?" The answer came sharp and steady. "Everyone pick a staircase and go." No time to hesitate. The hall behind was already writhing with bugs, and waiting too long might be worse than moving forward. Still, they lingered just a moment. Just as the bugs crept in and urgency sparked, everyone picked a staircase and disappeared upward. Before they left, he had checked their destiny compasses. No issues. All needles in place. Once alone, he checked his own in a mirror. The small pointer leaned slightly left, well centered. Then, with a deliberate drain of his mental energy, leaving just enough to stay alert, he forced the pointer fully left. That shift cost far more than expected, not physically, but in subtle depletion. Still, barring surprises, he figured this stage would be easy. After all, villain-made stages were always just forced growth arcs. But he didn't need growth. He wasn't some shonen lead. His strength came from staying unreadable, hovering near justice without embracing it. Fighting like the rest would only ruin the mystique. Worse, the pointer's new position suggested he might end up looking weak this round. An image collapse was more dangerous than burnout. He didn't need stage trials. He had manga and forums. With that, he took a slow, steady pace upstairs, turning onto a wide landing with a couch and a coffee table like the stage. The table was set with a fruit platter, but only a few apple slices remained. Where was everyone? Looking around, I saw no one, so I made my way upwards. The 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floors were all empty. The 5th floor, the top, was the same, but it felt cozy, like a place to rest. Trusting my instincts, I curled up on the sofa and drifted into sleep. "Wake up? Wake up?" A gentle voice broke the silence, pulling me from my sleep. I opened my eyes to find her, her face filled with concern and surprise. I sat up, confused, realizing I was back at the inn from yesterday. Beside me, Feng Lan lay unconscious. "Teacher, what's going on?" I asked, still trying to make sense of it all. Before she could respond, two figures entered, interrupting her. Manhwa and Lei Zane appeared. Lei Zane was already speaking. As he sat up, a jolt of surprise flashed across the room. One figure gasped, another's eyes widened, and the third exchanged a sharp glance before shaking her head. She confessed she had only called out softly when she sensed a stir, and somehow that had pulled him back. He caught fragments of their whispers, strung them together, and asked if what he'd seen had been an illusion. A slow nod answered him. He leaned back with a calm that felt almost theatrical, as if every move belonged in a panel drawn for impact. They still, clueless about his thoughts, pressed him for details what had happened in that strange world and how he escaped. He told them plainly, each moment unfolding until the part where he climbed the staircase and drifted asleep at the top. Silence followed, broken only when she explained that falling asleep inside the illusion had released him, then added with a knowing smile that he had already figured it out long before. In a place where danger lurked around every corner, one couldn't help but wonder, how could anyone sleep so soundly? What kind of nerve would that take? With an audacious grin, the protagonist shamelessly took credit for the calm. If acting was the game, they were all in. Whatever the manga's creator had in mind, they'd explain it away. When Lei Zane questioned the point of dragging them into danger with no one around, confusion was written across his face. Manhwa, sharp as ever, figured it out, his sneer telling it all. "How'd you do it?" he asked, suspecting that something had happened to make the enemies disappear, leaving the protagonist to escape unscathed. But the protagonist wasn't about to spill the beans. Instead, they chose to let the manga take the lead. Would it show the power of their ability? If it did, they might just amplify it for some added flair. If not, they'd shift the narrative and claim to have known Black Flash's plan all along, weaving the story to their advantage. The first option would boost their mystique slightly, but their persona was already solid, so it wasn't a game changer. The latter, however, was a different story. If the manga skipped over their ability, they'd use He drifted off for a second, only to snap back when that sharp gaze cut through him. And with a sheepish grin, he murmured, "Maybe I just got lucky?" Earning a swift smack and a grumble to keep his tricks to himself, which only made him grin wider in silence. Then he hesitated, curiosity flickering as he asked why the others were like that too, and the answer came with a scowl. No one knew. They had rushed over after his distress signal only to find him already trapped in the illusion of the Black Gate, rescued him, then went back for the rest. Another voice explained it was all likely the work of Black Flash, which led to the decision to end the whole thing. The sharp-eyed one added that when they reached the others, they were already in the same condition, but through tampered tokens, not the gate. A thought sparked altered exits, altered tokens, then vanished in the haze of drained mental energy, the weight of the illusion still real on his mind, and with a weary yawn, he whispered that he wanted to rest, only to hear a gentle voice grant him that peace as the comic world seemed to pause on a fading panel. In the quiet moments, when thoughts are left to breathe, a new understanding emerges. Subi, though seemingly detached, isn't bothered by the passing time. His friends, like Manhwa, don't expect deep connections after just a few months. Yet, even with his aloof demeanor, the situation isn't one of frustration, just a calm acceptance of individuality. Tired and drained, Subi doesn't feel the need to explain more. Sleep takes over. The following day, waking at 2 p.m., he notices Feng Lan still asleep. Hunger nudges him into a routine washing up and grabbing a late lunch from a nearby restaurant, as the inn doesn't serve meals. On his way back, he meets Lei Zane. Curious about the fate of their classmates, Subi asks, "Teacher Lei, is it really up to them now?" He hopes for reassurance that the school has measures in place to guide their path. If they do, in the heart of an ongoing battle, the enemy was hidden in the shadows, and they were ready to exploit any slip-up. However, a brief mistake wasn't necessarily disastrous. Both sides could still recover if they found a way to fix the situation. But if no solution came, it would spell disaster. Trapped in darkness with no defense, they'd become easy targets. Fortunately, things weren't that bad. Lei Zane gave a confident nod, stating it would take 3 days to break free from the enemy's illusion. 3 days? By then, the situation would be cold. While it wasn't ideal, I couldn't deny it was impressive. Breaking an illusion crafted by a skilled ability user wasn't easy, and 3 days was a quick turnaround. Plus, Pulling us out was still a win. If the enemy's goal was to trap us, at least we'd be free. I couldn't bring myself to care too much about the protagonist group after all. They were in good hands, and there were bigger battles ahead. By the afternoon, the scene bursts alive in sharp comic panels. In the dim room, Li Shu's eyes snap open, his face ghost pale, yet lit with a strange brilliance as he exclaims, "So this is illusion magic!" Yi Lin, startled but overjoyed, quickly checks him with her ability, confirms he's unharmed, and rushes out to call the teachers. The narrator lingers, asking, "What's illusion magic?" And Li Shu, too caught up in his excitement to hold back, explains that true illusion magic fuses reality and deception without needing perfection. In that instant, the narrator realizes he hasn't just shattered the spell, he's grown stronger. His own ability perfectly matched to the trial. The door slams open and others stride in, demanding how he fell into that strange world and what he saw. He recounts running alongside a companion, fleeing pursuers until a bizarre elephant-shaped token phased through walls and knocked them cold, plunging them into the illusion. Their journey mirrored the others at first, but their castle offered only 2 staircases. The first floor crawling with hulking nightmare beasts resistant to mental tricks, forcing him into brutal close combat. Then the second floor, where a garishly painted foe wielding illusion magic awaited. They clashed in a whirlwind of shifting reality, and Li Shu, despite his newfound clarity, was caught in that enemy. Li Shu, a master of illusions, uncovered a flaw and woke up, only to realize that the world around him might be nothing but an illusion. As a user of the illusion ability, he knew how to navigate and break through these illusions. Instead of ascending further, he jumped from the 3rd floor and made his way back to the starting point to find the formation core, which anchored the illusion. The core, always a seemingly inanimate object, could be anywhere and took unpredictable shapes. Though others were unaware of this, Li Shu, with his special ability, understood its nature. Eventually, he found the core, a tender green vine under the cliff, and destroyed it, escaping the illusion. When questioned about how he knew the core's location, he explained that larger illusions consumed more mental energy, and if the outside path didn't work, they would have been directly placed in the castle hall. His logic made sense, and slowly, the others woke up. Their experiences varied, with 2 floors involving illusion magic and 1 challenging their abilities. Interestingly, none except for the narrator reached the group had started to wake up after the strange events, but the 5 were still unconscious, including the protagonist trio, Si Zhaohua and Zhou Renjie, who had strangely mixed in with them. It felt odd, his presence in the mix. As everyone else began discussing the situation, they couldn't help but wonder how Su Bi had avoided the chaos. Shi Huang, hands on her hips, demanded an explanation. "Why didn't you encounter anything, Su Bei?" Ai Baozhu joined in, mimicking her, eager for answers. Su Bei, calm and nonchalant, shrugged. "I don't know. Maybe I just got lucky." The others were skeptical, but they couldn't help but be curious about how he managed to stay untouched by the Shi Huang shot a desperate look while Ai Baozhu whipped out a pink fan like some tragic heroine and drifted off stage with flair. Her distraction worked. Shi Huang dropped the interrogation, tilted her head with a smirk, and swore she'd cling to the lucky charm next time. After all, she'd seen it firsthand. Danger seemed to dodge Su, be like he was wrapped in invisible armor. Once the dramatic duo exited, in bounded Mo Xiaotian, all wagging tail and wide grin, baffled that Su Bi came out untouched while he'd practically waged war in there. Su Bi just shook his head. Nothing happened. No foes, no ambushes. But even he found it odd. Could Destiny Gear really warp fate that much? Make enemies vanish? If the manga didn't explain it, he'd never know. By evening, the other 5 stirred awake, all reaching the 5th floor with no clue how. Memories blank, questions unanswered, and a mystery left hanging in the air like an unfinished panel. The moment the teachers heard about the memory loss, their expressions darkened, clearing the room until only 5 students remained. Outside, someone explained softly that memory loss in illusions was no accident. It was crafted, intentional, like a smudge across truth. Suspicion flickered about what had happened on that mysterious 5th floor. But teens don't dwell in shadows long. Energy quickly returned, and with it, a fresh wave of complaints, this time about the students from the rival academy. Faces soured, tempers flared, and grudges surfaced. It wasn't just friction, it was sabotage, tracking, and betrayal masked as strategy. One student downed her drink, frustration sharp in her voice as she recalled being pushed aside, dismissed, treated as expendable. That experience still left a bitter taste. Ji Huang was burning with questions. What happened to them? She couldn't rest easy if Skydome's troublemakers walked away clean. But Zhao Xiaoyu, calm as ever, delivered the good news. They'd been dragged back by teachers in disgrace after enraging a swarm of conservatives. Ji Huang leaned in, eager for the behind the scenes. Zhao Xiaoyu broke it down like clockwork. Wu Jin played bait, acting alone to lure Skydome into chasing him off. Meanwhile, Wu Mingbai had already led a group of radicals, including 2 Skydome students, down the same path. When both sides met, it looked like a secret meeting. Perfect. That's when Wu Jin slipped back, using his stealth, and Wu Mingbai returned too. Zhao Xiaoyu then guided the conservatives over, letting them witness Skydome's cozy chat with the radicals after a full day of stirring things up. It didn't take much for the conservatives to explode. The plan was so tight, it left no cracks. Skydome couldn't cry setup, since Zhao Xiaoyu's team never left. The radical team wasn't just made up of Skydome students. As the team gathered, Ji Huang gave a thumbs up, pleased with the progress. Each member shared how they handled the Skydome situation. As the conversation wound down, Mu Tian asked, "Are we wrapping up the training early after today?" Mo Zhaotian quickly dismissed the idea, not ready for the fun to end. Zhao Xiaoyu weighed the situation and nodded. "Not necessarily. The school might keep us here. Black Flash has already made a move, so it's unlikely they'll act again soon. Continuing, the training should be fine." Mo Xiaotian, relieved, clapped his chest, praising Zhao for her analysis. However, Ai Baozhu expressed disappointment, wishing for an early return. The harsh weather outside couldn't compare to the comfort of school. She began thinking about getting her family to invest in training spaces within the school. Afterward, the group dispersed, exhausted after the physical strain from the illusion didn't linger, but the mental exhaustion was undeniable. The drain on mental energy was real, and only their youthful energy kept them engaged in conversation for so long. The next morning, their instructor gathered them in the inn's hall and got straight to the point. Today's focus: rest. Training will resume tomorrow and last for 3 days. With that, he left, leaving the group to exchange glances. Mu Tian spoke first, directing his question to Jiang Tianming. "Do you remember what happened on the 5th floor?" Jiang Tianming shook his head, regretfully. "No, but the teacher said they'll help us figure it out once we're back at school." Si Xiaohua also frowned and nodded in agreement. Ai Baozhu, frustrated, stomped her foot. "So we've been targeted by Black Flash for nothing? We lost memories, and we can't even do anything about it?" Lan Subing, however, spoke up happily. "Not entirely." Jiang grabbed a button from one of the enemies. "The teachers say it's a key clue for tracking." The group processed the information, but before they could react further, they were caught off guard. Mu Tian repeated. "He took a button from..." In a world where reality and illusion blur, Li Shu is stunned as he witnesses Jiang Tianming bring something from the illusion into the real world, declaring it impossible. Jiang Tianming, equally puzzled, admits that he found it in his hand upon waking. Driven by obsession, Li Shu rushes to test if he can pull something from his own illusion, but the growing tension pushes everyone else to step back. The situation becomes too much for Lan Subing, a social anxiety sufferer, who stays behind to witness the turmoil, silently enduring the storm brewing around her. Meanwhile, the others, recognizing the looming conflict, escape to avoid getting caught up in the argument, offering a brief chuckle over. She wasn't socially anxious, just distant aloof in a way that made people misunderstand. When he pointed it out, Feng Lan and Wu Jin paused, then nodded they saw it too. Poor Lan Subing. After chatting outside, he and Feng Lan headed back. Just as the door shut, the manga consciousness chimed in. "King of Abilities has updated. Please check." Of course it had. He wasn't surprised. The past few chaotic days were definitely enough for a chapter. Cleaned up and settled under the inn's lamp, he opened the update. It launched straight into the dual missions of Sai Zhaohua and Jiang Tianming's teams. Split panels showing both summoning their drivers, both rushing off. The scenes toggled. Jiang Tianming's tense progression, then Si Zhaohua's strategy. Since he already knew what happened with his own crew, his eyes stayed on Jiang Tianming's. Their mission was less people-focused, just facts, a video briefing, then left alone to deal with a creature called the Nightmare Star. It only appeared at night, so they spent daylight crafting traps and planning. He couldn't help thinking, Sai Zhao Hua might have been the better pick. His ability lured nightmare beasts, maybe it could have worked in the day. The spotlight shifted to their side next. Though the chat between him and Wu Jin about the succubus wasn't aired, its absence hinted at secrets simmering beneath the surface. Scanning through comments, Subi noticed the recurring theme people thought he knew. Knew too much. Subi knows everything! He always seems one step ahead. Still so mysterious, where's he getting all this intel? Their curiosity buzzed like static. Clearly, something had to happen soon. But first, he zipped through the manga and peeked at the forum mood. After the mission wrapped, the team took a day off, omitted from the main story, but slipped into a manga side update, likely showcasing their chaotic truth or dare game. Then came the real deal, the maze, different space. Right on cue, Jiang Tianming dove headfirst into disaster. Barreling inside, he bumped into a Skydome student, not a problem alone, but their clash drew another, the Skydome team's captain. With his boulder control ability turning the stone labyrinth into his playground, the captain had the home field edge. Outclassed, outmaneuvered, and out of options, Jiang had one choice run. He encountered a trap set by an ally, allowing them to narrowly escape their pursuers. But the chase was far from over. By midday, the trackers planted on them activated, leading to another relentless pursuit, this time by a group of skilled and determined enemies. Watching from the sidelines, the observer couldn't help but sigh, being the hero was a tough life. Still, there was some truth in the earlier complaint about the protagonist being a bit of a bad luck magnet. As the story unfolded, the protagonist's paths intertwined, and soon the team faced another adversary. Despite the challenges, the group managed to stay a step ahead, revealing a deeper, more sinister plot where the true intentions of their enemies were finally laid bare. The lucky trio among them seemed to always land on their feet, and their uncanny fortune led them to a significant victory over a dangerous force. It was only then that the observer realized the luck of one character had been no coincidence. It was almost as if fate itself had favored her. This realization added a layer of intrigue, as it became clear that there was more at play than just random chance in this chaotic. After her, Mo Xiaotian stumbled into absurd luck like a walking glitch in the system, utterly clueless, but always somehow landing on his feet. Then came the odd duo of Ai Baozhu and Si Zhaohua, possible contenders in the Chaos Roulette. Fenglan had her moments too, but being kidnapped twice kind of threw off the stats. One panel even showed her latest abduction was a setup. She caught the threat 5 seconds early through prophecy, but still got snatched like it was scripted. Meanwhile, the title of Unluckiest clearly went to the narrator, with Jiang Tianming right behind bottom ranked in the comic's cruel hierarchy. And of course, fate decided to glue them to the protagonist like some cruel inside joke. As the story sprawled, the spotlight hovered on the original trio, but the other teams weren't ignored. Mo Xiaotian and Ai Baozhu were a full-on comedy arc, one a bumbling idiot, the other a pampered heiress, more interested in being ridiculous than training. Even shady ability users got smoked out in seconds by Ai Baozhu's sharp eyes. The next team, Si Zhaohua, Zhou Renji, and Mu Taran played it straight, first chased by soldier tokens, then chariot ones. That sequence cracked the pattern. Chariots, go for whoever's closest. Soldiers fixate on the first person they see. And anyone marked by a queen? Ling, you and I cross paths in the manga's world, brought together by the queen token. At first, I thought I looked a little messy in the scene, but the thrill of rescuing someone made the moment feel worth it enough to make readers cheer for me. If I'd adjusted my pointer, things might have looked more graceful, but in the end, I'm glad I held back. I was saving my mental energy, knowing how critical it could be later. That preparation paid off when I had to shift my pointer to the far left the following day. As the story unfolded, we entered an illusion, following a timeline that started with our group. To my surprise, my simple remark, "This sky feels fake," ended up on the manga's opening page. It was a subtle clue that tied into a bigger reveal. He knew it was an illusion. As I scrolled down, the focus shifted to Si Zhaohua, showing how he cleared the stages. A split panel revealed the other three, fighting their own battles on each floor. Then came the part I'd been waiting for. A golden-haired, purple-eyed teen, calm and unstoppable, ascended the steps. He barely paused, unfazed by anything, and reached the 5th floor, a bedroom-like room with dim yellow lighting, setting a lazy, mysterious mood. He sinks into the sofa like it's his second home, drifting off without a care while everyone online loses their minds. No enemies, no obstacles, just silence as he naps away. The comment section erupts in disbelief. How can he sleep so easily? Did he use his ability? Is he secretly unbeatable? Whispers spread that he's getting special treatment. Some swear he's a spy, and while confusion brews, he smiles to himself, knowing exactly what he's doing as the forum lights up with theories that only make. The chapter opens as the illusion shatters, and he wakes right into a scene with manhwa and the teachers, where the original calm exchange is twisted into a fiery interrogation in the manga. They're painted like hounds chasing a traitor, even though no accusation ever came. He laughs bitterly at the misrepresentation. If he hadn't lived it, he'd think he clashed with Meng Huai. As the story presses on, Lei Zian relays what happened to the others, but only Jiang Tianming and Li Shu get screen time, one as the main thread, the other for his leap forward. Oddly, Jiang Tianming's 5th floor trial is skipped entirely, leaving only the mystery of what occurred. That button he brought back becomes the spark. Li Shu's curiosity about his ability spirals into a confrontation. And just like that, fists are poised. With no power-ups this time, the only way to stay relevant is through the truth, or at least shaking it. The chapter's final wink? A side story. Truth or dare, of course. Mo Xiaotian had always been the last person anyone would suspect of being a mole. Among the class, only the main trio, along with Si Xiaohua and Mo Xiaotian, remained untouched by suspicion. Yet, despite the comments being filled with nothing but laughter, Mo Xiaotian's perfect disguise went unnoticed. If not for the mysterious black lightning mark on his neck, no one would have thought twice about him. Meanwhile, Jiang Tianming's past was slowly unraveling. His mother, whose silhouette from the first season left fans guessing, was now confirmed in the minds of many as part of his tragic story. An orphan at heart, Jiang Tianming longed for a family, and the revelation that his mother might have died giving birth to him only deepened the sorrow surrounding his ability. As a result, he had mixed feelings of regret, yet the truth finally dawned upon him. He wasn't regretting his ability, but the death of his mother, making it clear that his power wasn't to blame. As the discussion swirled online, Mo Xiaotian remained a shadow, completely unmentioned. No one ever suspected him. Mo Xiaotian had blended in so well that no one even thought twice. In their class, only the main trio, Si Xiaohua and Mo Xiaotian, weren't nominated. But as the comments flooded in, there was no hint of suspicion, just an endless stream of laughter. It was clear Mo Xiaotian's disguise was perfect. If it weren't for the black lightning mark on his neck, no one would have even considered him. Meanwhile, Jiang Tianming's truth question barely caused a stir. The lead's secrets were mostly out, and fans of the series had already pieced together that the mysterious woman at the end of Season 1 was his mother. This revelation saddened many fans who empathized with his orphan state, as it seemed his ability came at the cost of his mother's life during childbirth. Despite this heartbreaking backstory, he realized something important. He shouldn't regret his ability. His mother's death wasn't because of his powers, but something more complex. As the forums filled with posts about the others, it was clear that Mo Xiaotian remained untouched. In a world where reality and storylines blend into one, Su Bi finds himself caught between fragments of memory and a surreal narrative. As the infinite draft begins to take shape, characters like Lan Subing, Feng Lan, and Wu Mingbai evolve into creators of their own stories, breaking free from predefined arcs. Yet, remnants of the narrative core try to drag them back into old patterns. Su Bi, once a simple character, becomes a guide helping others discover their own agency. He watches as each of them takes control, rewriting their fates with words and drawings. But when the time comes to make a choice, Su Bi doesn't write the final line. Instead, he hands the pen to someone else, letting a new voice shape the future. The story doesn't end. It's simply after the twist with Sai Xiaohua, everyone expected Su Bi to unleash something big on stage, but he just slipped through as if the challenge didn't matter at all. leaving readers itching for answers that the manga stubbornly hides. The cryptic silence feels like a trap door to deeper secrets, maybe a buried signal that Subi, once a calm guide in the Infinite Draft, might be on the edge of clashing with the Academy's ghost panels, yet fans cling to him staying with the main group, fearing that losing him means losing the fragile pulse that keeps this open-ended story breathing. Number 7. Rushes in with urgency. Number 8. Thanks them coolly, and the scene shifts. Number 45. Breathes a sigh of relief, finally convinced by the arguments laid out. Number 46 jumps back on the trust train, adamant that Subi isn't the traitor everyone feared. The comment section explodes with energy. Flying in Flowers teases the OP about their couple-like banter, while number 47 celebrates the vindication, declaring unwavering loyalty to their chaotic fandom, only to get in a world where time and fate bend. Subi's mysterious ability continues to surprise everyone. It's clear he has the power to alter destiny itself, and this chapter reveals how he manipulates fate to help others, like Si Xiaohua, escape and join forces at the Black Gate. His ability to make enemies vanish or shift events is hinted at, suggesting he can control more than just outcomes. He can change the very threads of fate. As more layers of his power unfold, readers are left wondering just how far his influence extends. His ability, both mysterious and powerful, leaves fans eagerly awaiting the moment when the full extent of his powers, like the enigmatic Destiny Gear, will be revealed. Each chapter deepens the intrigue, pulling readers further into Subi's journey and the unfathomable. In the quiet aftermath of the story's reawakening, the world begins to reshape itself not through force, but by fragments of memory. Former characters, once distant sketches, slowly regain form and voice. The pages, instead of following a rigid plot, breathe with soft, evolving shapes. Subi, once just a passive figure, emerges as a guide in this new realm, the Infinite Draft. His interactions help others find their fragments of agency, like Lan Subing, who rediscovers her ability to write, and Fenglan, who begins to draw her own vision. The narrative becomes a fluid space where genres mix and identities are redefined. But even in this freedom, remnants of the old structure, the ghost panels, threaten to pull everyone back into their predefined arcs. The ultimate choice lies in Subi's hands, to preserve this new freedom or seal it away once more. In the end, he chooses not to finish the story himself, but to hand over the pen to someone else, allowing a new voice to begin the next chapter. The manga closes not with an ending, but in the world of fragmented stories. Subi's journey unfolds like a whispered memory. Choosing to stay in the eternal margin, he watches as forgotten characters slowly regain their form, not perfectly, but enough to speak. The once static world of manga now flows sideways, where time bends and characters find their own voices. Subi becomes a guide, helping others uncover their fragments of freedom. Lan Subing writes again, Fenglan draws her own vision, and Wu Mingbai steps into a new role. No longer the comic relief, but a narrator. Yet, even in this boundless realm, remnants of the old system linger, ghost pages that threaten to pull everyone back into familiar arcs. Subi faces a choice. Preserve this infinite space of possibility, or lock it all away for good. But in the end, he doesn't wield the final pen. He hands it over. Subi didn't know it was an illusion at first. He figured it out from the sky that looked too fake to be real. If he had known the place, he wouldn't have questioned it. Some think his reaction was a subtle jab at the bad design, but the author didn't give him a playful look. When Subi stepped out and asked, "Was that an illusion?" and followed up with, as expected, "It wasn't a reveal, it was deduction." Others say he was just acting, but Subi isn't one to waste effort on theatrics. When manhwa pushed him, he didn't fake anything, he simply smirked and said, "Guess?" If he didn't overact, then he wasn't acting before either. There's a split as usual, believe it or don't, but one post captured it well, laying out why Subi can't be a mole. That opened the door to a better question. If not a mole, then what? He's clearly connected to Black Flash. It's the only way to explain why he's never surprised by their moves. And it probably is. He figures if it's not an ability, then it must come from outside, so his bold guess is that Subi secretly runs an intel ring, maybe even tied to Black Flash. He eyes Mo Xiaotian, Mu Tiran, or Zhou Renji as the mole, suspecting the first two because the author loves throwing false trails before landing a twist nobody expects, while Zhou's shaky resolve makes him an easy target for Black Flash's sway. He doesn't bother spelling out every clue, dropping just enough to tease that he's an insider, safe under the author's silence as long as he stays vague. The forum laps it up, trusting him more each time he's right, no longer the usual cannon fodder waiting to get slapped down. When he checks back later, the comments are buzzing, nobody's doubting, everyone's reeling, and not a single soul sees the real bait hidden between the lines. In the unfolding chapters of this surreal manga, the story moves beyond a simple narrative. It becomes a reflection of itself. As the panels form through the fragmented memories of its characters, Subi shifts from being just a figure in the story to a guide within the infinite draft, a space where stories are shaped by interaction, not control. As fragments of his past, Lan Subing, Fang Lan, and Wu Mingbai regain their abilities to write, draw, and narrate, they each take steps to create their own paths, free from the constraints of old arcs. However, even in this new freedom, remnants of the narrative core threaten to pull them back into ghostly, predefined paths. In the end, Subi, now a protector of the blank spaces between stories, steps aside, allowing a new voice to take up the pen, marking the beginning of a new journey. This manga is not just about the end, it's about opening doors for others to begin writing their own story. In the quiet stillness of the infinite draft, where time flows sideways and characters are reborn from fragments of memory, Subi stands as both guide and protector. The once blank pages of the manga pulse with life, not by force, but through the very emotions of its fragments. Former characters, once mere silhouettes, slowly regain their voices and roles, though not completely. The structure is not a reboot of old systems, but an ever-evolving narrative, where the characters now shape their own destinies. Subi, no longer the protagonist, helps those around him discover their agency. Lan Subing, after years of silence, writes her first sentence, while Fang Lan draws a panel with her own hands, breaking free from the confines of prophecy. Even Wu Mingbai, once just a source of humor, becomes a storyteller in his own right. But as the remnants of the old narrative core begin to pull the characters back into their predefined arcs, Subi faces a choice: to preserve the chaos of the infinite draft or seal it with one final panel. In the end, he doesn't write the last line. Instead, he hands the pen to someone else, allowing a new voice to begin the next chapter. The story never ends, it simply opens. The story unfolds in an ever-evolving narrative where nothing is static, and the boundaries between creator and creation blur. In a world called the Infinite Draft, characters, memories, and reality shift unpredictably. Subi, now a guide rather than a mere protagonist, watches as his once controlled universe splinters into fragments, allowing his friends and former classmates, who were once mere silhouettes, to regain their voices and agency. Lan Subing, after long silence, begins writing again. Feng Lan embraces drawing for the first time, and Wu Mingbai shifts from comic relief to storyteller. Despite the new freedom, remnants of the old world ghost panels threaten to drag everyone back into predefined arcs. As the world teeters on the edge of this fragile balance, Subi takes a step back, offering the pen to another, letting a new voice take over. This poignant ending suggests that, with a smirk, the character closed the phone, shaking their head at the flood of reactions online. Everyone was fixated on the revelation about the mole, leaving the intel organization claim unnoticed. But that was fine. What mattered was the next step. Soon, they'd have an intel network at their back, and the more people believed, the faster they'd reach their goal. They'd even throw in some minor intel to keep the momentum going. As the screen dimmed, a voice broke the silence. Feng Lan, still awake, pondering the growing suspicion of a mole in their ranks. They had to figure it out. A conversation ensued, filled with sharp realizations and quiet determination, leaving both characters on the same page. No retreat, no surrender. The mole he froze, realizing too late what prophecy might expose Mo Xiaotian. Hidden in the shadows, now at risk of being dragged into the light. Doubt crept in. Was there another mole among the teachers, soon to be revealed too? He remembered the author's sleight of hand, how suspicion had once turned on him. A clever misdirection, perhaps, just before Mo Xiaotian's secret was truly in danger. But no, It felt premature, more likely the next twist would only tease at the truth. Still, it wasn't his concern. It was just how the plot twisted. With a sly grin, he teased, "Aren't you afraid I'm the mole?" "Say that again and I might have to silence you." Feng Lan paused, eyes steady, and said with certainty, "You're not." He raised an eyebrow. "Why so sure?" But Feng Lan didn't waver, only repeated the same words. Curious. He studied Feng Lan. This wasn't simple trust or sentiment. The prophecy had only pointed to two possibilities. Either Feng Lan had figured out the truth about me coming from a solid, honorable family, or he trusted his prophecy that I wasn't the mole. But there was a mystery that still nagged at me. Why had Feng Lan joined Class F? The manga never really gave a clear reason, but the hints were there. His pre-enrollment prophecy must have led him to Class F, not Class A. I, being in this manga world, dared to guess, influenced by shonen tropes, that he joined Class F because of Jiang Tianming. Yet, despite some early interactions, Feng Lan hadn't shown much of a bond with Jiang Tianming. It hit me then, what if Feng Lan had mistaken me for the one he was meant to meet in his prophecy? My transformation had changed everything. What would have seemed like a weak ability user to the prophecy was now something else. But Feng Lan's prophecy was set in stone before enrollment. If he was looking for someone, it was probably Jiang Tianming, not me. I couldn't let this happen if he thought it was me. The whole plot could derail. I needed to make sure they spent more time together. Jiang Tianming had a knack for forming friendships, and Jiang Tianming had the strength to win Feng Lan's respect. He just needed a shot, and that shot was coming. The next 2 days passed quietly with nothing major happening during the missions. Once training ended, everyone returned to the school, where the shift from intense days to the calm, familiar campus felt almost surreal. As the 15 students walked in together, they immediately drew attention. Lower years were clueless, but the older students recognized what this group had just been through. From the crowd, a blonde guy in a loud pink suit returning from outside eyed them curiously, popping open his collar. A calm girl with blue hair and black-rimmed glasses followed, adjusting her frames as she confirmed this was the new S-class. She warned the blonde guy, clearly the president, that he'd probably meet them soon. He smiled wide, already hoping there'd be some rebels among them. But just as he made a move, she cut him off, reminding him of his duty to report the mission. His smile stiffened, and with a suddenly sincere look, he tried to charm his way out, suggesting Xiaoman was no stranger to her boss's charm. But his gaze and sweet words didn't faze her. "Thanks for the trust, but please finish the report now. I'm not cut out for this," she said, her smile never faltering. With a sly glance at his unbuttoned shirt, she added, "And button up, before the dean gets on your case again." His handsome face dropped, and with no other choice, he sulked, following her as she walked away. Later, back in the dorm, the weekend brought much-needed rest. By Monday, everyone was recharged. The first class was manhwa's, but he had something different in mind. A few people entered, led by a handsome blonde guy. The blue-haired girl set up a PPT, while the others handed out booklets. The blonde guy introduced himself as the student council president of Endless Ability Academy, Mu Yunfan, here to recruit new members. He wasn't interested. Sure, joining the council came with perks, access to more information, extra authority, even influence over cafeteria meals and school trips, but to someone like him, uninterested in power, it only meant more chores and restrictions. Meanwhile, up on stage, the council president kept talking, listing all the roles: event organizing, staff management, disciplinary oversight. He even started bragging about the improved cafeteria food until a sharp cough from the blue-haired girl at the projector cut him off. She adjusted her glasses with a polite smile, and the president quickly got back on track. Then came the juicy part. Council members got monthly reward points based on rank, influence over school decisions, and a golden ticket for post-graduation careers, especially in teaching or the ability government. But first, to join, one had to complete at least one training session, which is exactly why he'd shown up right after their intense S-class trial. While many council duties were linked to training, those with real-world experience excelled in handling the ability government, unlike the more sheltered students. S-class members gained easy entry, but others had to prove their strength, especially since council members often doubled as school security, quelling fights on campus. As Zhao Man wrapped up her presentation and received a message, she slipped out quietly, her mission apparently complete. Then Mu Yunfan seized the moment, ditching the script and rallying the crowd with flair. The council was flawless, he claimed no tricks, all benefits, with elite training and no regrets. His sudden zeal earned a sharp glare and a pointed cough from Meng Huai, who muttered that letting Xiao Man leave was a mistake. Undeterred, Mu Yunfan grinned and fibbed about his motives, insisting the juniors were clearly inspired. But when Meng Huai hinted that Director Gao, infamously strict, might enjoy hearing this fiery pitch, Mu Yunfan immediately toned down, shifting to logistics. Interested students should apply at room 521-inch Building 3. And with one final wink, he quipped that even the room number was their way of showing heartfelt welcome. Mu Yunfan and his crew dashed off, but not before Meng Huai caught up and landed a clean kick, sending him stumbling. Not daring to look back, fearing more blows, Mu Yunfan used the momentum to escape with some last shred of dignity. To outsiders, it might have looked like a student council president on recruitment duty. To others, it seemed like he got chased out for shady business. Meng Huai just sighed and told the watching class not to be fooled. Mu Yunfan's got real power, enough to wipe the floor with them if he wanted. He's just eccentric. But Meng Huai had seen plenty of wild S-class students before. With class nearly over and time lost, he gave up on the lesson and left, tossing a warning behind. Keep chatting if you must, but don't disturb the other classes. As soon as he was gone, the class buzzed with whispers. And Mo Xiaotian broke the silence first, eyes sparkling. He thought President Mu was fascinating and suddenly wanted to join the student council too. For the others in the class, joining the student council would be a breeze. But for Mo Xiaotian, it was a whole different story. Zhang Tianming, observing the overly enthusiastic boy, could only comment dryly, "Good ambition." Lan Subing, curious as always, asked, "The teacher just said President Mu is very powerful. Does anyone know what his ability is?" Si Zhaohua, who had done his homework before enrolling, shared the news. His ability is Light of Hope. It's said to be an extremely rare ability that doesn't require mental energy. As long as he has hope in his heart, he can unleash it. Everyone blinked, confused. Lan Subing, voicing the thoughts of everyone, hesitantly muttered, "A cheat?" Su Bi couldn't help but think to himself, isn't that just the truth? This ability was even more protagonist-like than the protagonist. With something like, as long as hope doesn't fade, the battle never stops. Why not just let him be the main character in the King of Abilities? Seeing the group's stunned faces, Si Zhaohua continued. But, on the flip side, once disappointment takes hold of his heart, the power of the ability weakens. Still, there's no denying it's an incredibly powerful ability. It sounded like an ability with both pros and cons. On someone as optimistic as Mo Xiaotian, it was like adding wings to a tiger. But on a pessimistic person, it might as well. Si Zhaohua had caught everyone off guard when he casually mentioned he was thinking about joining the student council. His carefree demeanor earlier had no hint of the powerful ability he possessed. Zhao Xiaoyu, eager to stay connected to the world of abilities, immediately declared her intentions to join as well. With her own abilities, she doubted she could stay in Class S for long, so joining the student council was her planned route to secure a future as a teacher at the school. The decision was quickly made to visit the student council in 2 days, using the time before then to research roles and write application reports. Not everyone shared the same enthusiasm. Su, Bi, Wu Jin, and Lan Subing had no interest in joining, but there was no strong opposition either. Even Su Bi, who wasn't keen on the idea, was curious about the council, especially with the new characters appearing. The teachers, aside from Meng Huai, continued their lessons, and the difficulty of the courses increased. A wilderness first aid course was added to the curriculum, taught by Ye Lin, filling the gap left by the lack of. Lan Subing could heal using word spirit, but it felt like using poetry to patch a paper cut wasteful. Ling, you handled plague-type viruses easily, but only within narrow bounds. So when the world kept shifting, they realized, better to trust in themselves than hope for miracles. First aid knowledge became their sword and shield. Then came Lei Zian's ability identification class, not just about flashy powers, but the strange, often unreadable items birthed by ability users. These weren't toys. They carried weight, danger, mystery. Recognizing their traits meant survival. Ordinary students wouldn't need this knowledge. It was exclusive to Class S, the ones who stood nearest the edge. They paid attention. They had to. Then came the second-day arena match. Li Shu finally faced Jiang Tianming, but when Jiang reached into illusion, nothing came out. The teachers didn't understand it. No one did. By Wednesday, they walked toward the third teaching building quiet, alert, as if each footstep might rewrite the script. The third building was once just the faculty office, but rumors said the entire fifth floor and rooftop belonged to the student council alone. With this setup, Su-bi sometimes wondered if the whole school radiated protagonist energy. While they walked, Zhao Xiaoyu casually shared what she dug up. The council was mostly seniors and second years, with barely any first years allowed in. That second year who'd presented the PPT was the president's secretary, known as Feng Manman. Usually, when the president stepped down, the secretary took over. Zhao Xiaoyu looked genuinely impressed, saying Feng was the only Class B student in 50 years to pull this off. Becoming the president's secretary, basically next in line for the throne, demanded undeniable strength. Normally, only Class S students ever made it that far. Maybe Class A, but never Class B. Elections made it even tougher. For a Class B student to earn the trust of other elite students spoke volumes about Feng's skill. Everyone's eyes lit up in awe. Mo Xiaotian asked what her ability was, and Zhao Xiaoyu answered, a healing type called Heart of Purification, which didn't just heal people but could purify nightmare beasts. As a first year, Feng had joined the Lando Plains campaign, fighting nightmare beasts while healing teammates, defending a city alongside other students, the president included, and making a name in one battle. The Lando Plains campaign was legendary in their history class, because the school had taken Part 3. Giant different space portals had appeared out of nowhere, spewing nightmare beasts non-stop. Many ability users got drafted to fight. Wu Taran's brow furrowed. How could someone with that kind of power land in Class B? But Zhao Xiaoyu, just a regular with no deep ties to the ability world, could only shrug. Her people skills got her this far, but secrets don't spill easy. Then Wu Jin, quiet as always, dropped a single word, mental energy. Everyone caught it. Sharp ears come standard with abilities. No one questioned him. His past was no secret in Class S. Zhao Xiaoyu froze, then puzzled it out. Feng's mental energy was low? But how? She'd been a force on the battlefield. Wu Jin, still soft-spoken, answered with a darker truth. Life force. The room stilled. They knew what that meant. Mental energy could recharge. Life force? Not so much. Burn it, and you burn through your years. Lan Subing, hard on her sleeve, barely whispered. Then she now. But the pain in her voice, Wu Jin gave a calm nod. She'd received a stockpile of life force restoratives from the academy and had nearly bounced back. A collective breath escaped the group. After all, losing someone like her so early would have shattered morale. It also proved how absurdly stacked the academy's resources were. But the heavy talk of life force in war? Yeah, that floated too far above their heads. So Zhao Xiaoyu slid in with a, which departments are you all applying to? Totally casual on the surface, but she wasn't just making small talk. As first years, department choices mattered, especially with limited slots and hidden agendas. Class S status or not, if everyone aimed at the same target, things could get messy. Names flew fast, 10 of them locked in, including Zhao Xiaoyu herself. She went for external affairs, only to find Qi Huang in the same lane. Fair odds. But then came the disciplinary department bloodbath. Qi Huang, Zhou Renjie, Mu Taran. And wait for it, Mo Xiaotian? That stopped everyone. Wu Mingbai stared like he'd seen a parallel universe glitch. Sure, some names raised eyebrows. But Mo Xiaotian? The school had no discipline, and Mo Xiaotian, who had no care for rules, was the last person anyone expected to manage it. The others couldn't help but look at him strangely. He didn't even know the school's regulations. Trying to picture him managing discipline felt absurd. As one of the others whispered about it, Su-bi, ever confident, smiled and teased. Isn't it exactly the kind of disciplinary officer everyone hopes for? Someone like me would ignore everything and let chaos reign. The others froze. Subi was right in his own way. A disciplinary officer like him might be a student's favorite, leading the chaos instead of enforcing rules. Jiang Tianming, amused, invited Subi to apply, but Subi quickly declined, not interested in the job. Instead, he turned his attention to Mo Xiaotian, wondering whether the latter's interest in a world filled with strict rules and endless regulations. Mo Xiaotian's decision to join the disciplinary department of the student council came as a huge surprise, especially since his curiosity often pushed him to challenge authority. The disciplinary department was responsible not only for overseeing daily school rules, but also for ensuring order during major events. However, handing such a powerful department to someone like Mo Xiaotian, known for his villainous tendencies, made Su be uneasy, as he predicted the school would quickly descend into chaos. Wondering if he should step in, Subi turned to Manga Consciousness for advice, asking if Mo Xiaotian's involvement was an essential part of the plot. With their long partnership, Manga Consciousness quickly understood Subei's concern and warned him that while it wasn't a completely dire situation, it was still an important. Intrigued by this vague answer, Subi began to dig deeper into Mo Xiaotian's motives. He suspected that Mo Xiaotian's true goal was to exploit the disciplinary department to create a weakness in the school's defenses, allowing a dangerous force to invade. As Subi realized the stakes, he knew that Mo Xiaotian's mission could either succeed or, if he pulled it off, disaster would strike. The Black Flash would breach the system. No matter how tight the defenses, someone would suspect betrayal from within. They'd dig, connect the dots, and land squarely on Mo Xiaotian. In short, success meant almost certain exposure. But failure? That was no safe bet either. If caught red-handed, he'd be finished. If he botched the plan himself, even if he stayed hidden, the trail might still lead back to him. Subi saw it clear now. This whole setup, Mo Xiaotian's role in the disciplinary department, was a trap laid by the author to blow his cover eventually. So Subi asked the key question. If Mo Xiaotian's identity could be exposed early, did that mean he wouldn't have to enter the department at all? The ever-observant Manga Consciousness confirmed it. Then came the twist. Subi wasn't planning to stop anything. Why interfere when the script would play out regardless? Even without Mo Xiaotian's inside work, Jiang Tianming and his friends arrived at the 5th floor, where the doors were tightly shut, with only faint voices escaping. As Jiang Tianming prepared to knock on room 521, the door unexpectedly opened, revealing a dark-skinned boy who greeted them with a playful whistle, calling them little juniors. The boy, named Zhang Sheng, asked if they were all joining the student council. Jiang Tianming explained that some were just there to observe. Before more could be said, a voice from within called out, telling Zhang Sheng to step aside and let them in. The source of the voice turned out to be Feng Manman, accompanied by a beautiful. Feng Manman adjusted her glasses with precision, her expression calm as ever, and invited them to sit with the elegance of someone already in control of the scene. The president? Momentarily summoned by a teacher, but no matter. Applications? Hand them over, she said with a practiced smile. The group, though curious and slightly nervous, complied without a fuss, dashing Zhang Sheng's hopes for a dramatic hazing. Then came the girl with the wavy hair, pouring water with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. You've come to the right place. It sounded like a welcome, but felt like a warning. Zhang Sheng's amused chuckle only deepened the unease, and Zhao Xiaoyu, sensing something off, turned to Feng Manman for a lifeline. What's it like joining the student council? The reply was honest, refreshingly so. Midterms were near, an event loomed, and yes, they'd be busy. But no traps, no tricks, just work. Relief washed over the group, some even visibly eager. Zhang Sheng sighed dramatically. Your honesty will get you in trouble, he muttered, disappointed by the lack of theatrics. The wavy-haired girl shot him a glare sharp enough to silence him. If you can't talk properly, don't know. Our Man is an honest, good kid. When the juniors arrive, Feng Man grins and notes Subi's group only half applied 10 forms, 5 missing. Subi steps forward, unapologetic. Correct! Feng eyes him, asks why. personality issues, he replies coolly. It's true, some lazy, some awkward, some allergic to authority. Feng scans the list, registers the absentees, doesn't press. Instead, she asks if they'd still help on council tasks. Lan Subing stays quiet, supportive but shy, hoping Subi speaks. He does with a smirk. So, you want us to be free labor? He drags the word free, not refusing, just pointing. Feng Subi, ever the calm figure, observed as the room filled with new faces. When President Mu Yunfan entered, the atmosphere shifted slightly. He surveyed the crowd and, with a smug grin, asked how many had come to apply. When Feng Manman responded with 10, Mu Yunfan couldn't help but boast about his influence. He believed his friendly approach had drawn them in, claiming that if he weren't so relatable, the turnout wouldn't have been so impressive. The others, unimpressed by his ego, simply rolled their eyes. Zhang Sheng, always more direct, asked the applicants if his speech had been the deciding factor. The applicants were quick to shake their heads. His words had little impact on their decision. Before they could respond, Mu Yunfan interrupted, claiming they were too shy to admit it, before playfully accusing Zhang Sheng of jealousy. Amid the banter, Feng Manman remained calm and reassured the applicants, letting them know that results would be emailed soon, along with details about joining the student council. The playful tension lingered. Caught in a whirlwind of change, the members of the student council can't tell who's in charge as a new challenge looms over them. Mu Yunfan, with a mischievous grin, drops a bombshell. You need to pass all exams to stay in the council. While most shrug it off, Mo Zhaodian's cheerful face falls. The midterms are nothing like the usual exams. They're academic monsters, testing everything from ability knowledge to standard subjects, making sure students don't fall behind after leaving the academy. Mo Zhaotian is a disaster in this department, and his guardians can't save him now. Desperately trying to avoid the inevitable expulsion, he turns to his classmates for help. The top students, Si Zhaohua, Lan Subing, Jiang Tianming, Shi Huang, and Su Bi are the obvious targets. Lan Subing is the first to agree to tutor him, followed quickly by Jiang Tianming. But what follows is endless frustration as Mo Zhaotian's lack of understanding turns every study session. Mo Zhaotian sat frozen before his test paper, blank as ever, while Jiang Tianming's patience wore thinner than tracing paper. Same method, different problem. Can't tell it's got a new head but the same butt? He barked, on the edge of a breakdown. Normally chill, Jiang had underestimated just how brain-meltingly frustrating this student could be. Lan Subing, fresh from her own failed tutoring attempt, sat nearby. Her blue hair tangled like her thoughts, eyes glazed over from trauma. As Jiang erupted again, she muttered like a ghost. We need backup. Enlightened, he nodded. Time to drag others into the storm. Soon, Shi Huang and Si Zhaohua joined in, baited by challenge. Mu Tiran, patient and average, and Wu Mingbai, a one-subject specialist, were pulled in too. Together, they formed a tutor strike team, but while Mo Zhaotian's scores inched upward, the tutor's sanity nosedived. In the end, they all agreed. They'd rather fight nightmare creatures for hours than spend 30 minutes tutoring. As Qi Huang finally realized she'd been duped, she angrily asked, "Why didn't you ask Su Bi?" Lan Subing slouched at the desk, mumbling, "We asked, but he didn't agree." In truth, they had tried to trick him, but Su Bi wasn't fooled. The idea of watching him squirm under Mo Zhaotian's pressure sounded more entertaining than dealing with Si Zhaohua and the others. But Su Bi, skilled in manga tropes, saw right through it. He knew that once he agreed, he'd be stuck tutoring nonstop before every exam, a nightmare he wasn't about to fall for. After a pause, Qi Huang asked about Feng Lan, suspecting he'd be a good candidate. Lan Subing sighed. He said he'd agree only if Su Bi did. Qi Huang, both impressed and frustrated, couldn't help but marvel at how cunning Feng Lan was, while also chastising herself for not following Su Bi's example in this case. Nearby, Su Bi should have known that anything fiercely resisted would never be easy. Qi Huang, who had been lounging with Lan Subing, suddenly sprang into action. "No way, I'm going to try." She had reached her limit, one more person to suffer. That was better. Without hesitation, Si Zhaohua agreed. "Count me in." But unlike Jiang Tianming's trio, who dragged each other down, Si Zhaohua didn't involve A Baoju or Zhou Renji. As for Su Bi, however, Si Zhaohua was more than eager to pull him into the chaos. The next day, as the bell for the first period rang, the two exchanged a glance and made their move towards Su Bi. Planning to nap at his desk, Su Bi looked up warily, sensing something strange. Was that killing intent? Chi Huang struck first. Su Bi, didn't you say you'd help if the student council was in trouble? Well, there's trouble now. Want to help? Su Bi, leaning back lazily in his chair, raised an eyebrow. What trouble? Chi Huang couldn't tell him the truth, knowing Su Bi would refuse, but she couldn't leave him guessing either. That's when Su Bi's classmates thought they had the perfect excuse second-year seniors needed help with student council training, right? Chi Huang nearly clapped at how natural it sounded, masking their true goal, pulling Su Bi in. If Su Bi asked questions later, they'd pin it on Mo Xiaotian's recruitment fallout. But Su Bi didn't bite. His eyes sharp, his voice cool. Number. The two were mid-celebration when the no landed like a slap. He even smiled, twisting the knife. Midterms, first years are busy. Even the council wouldn't be that cruel. Their plan crumbled. Whoops! Forgot the timing! But before they could pivot, Su Bi tapped the desk, slow and ominous. You want me to tutor Mo Xiaotian, don't you? Nailed it. Only something that tricky would make these two join forces to outwit him. Their faces froze at once. His refusal was firm. He wouldn't bend. Seeing no hope, Chi Huang sank into the chair, asking what it would take to make him tutor the boy. Even when scheming, she avoided cheap guilt trips about classmates helping each other. She despised that and stayed clear. He just shrugged. Not happening. He wasn't about to dig his own grave. Then a spark lit Si Zhaohua's eyes after midterms. The student council's big task would need hands, and he was trapped anyway. They'd let him pick the best job with the highest points, even make up the rest. It was tempting. He knew that task hit a key plot point, and he needed the best angle. He asked if they could really speak for everyone. Before an answer came, the hidden eavesdroppers yelled yes together. This was their one shot to reel him in. Just this once, he asked, head tilting with a hint of surrender. Su Bi had no intention of being tied to endless tutoring, so he needed to confirm one last time. With a knowing look, Si Zhaohua nodded. Just this once! Su Bi agreed. But just as he was about to continue, Manga consciousness urgently interrupted, warning that continuing might lead to a breach. Su Bi choked, hastily agreeing. With the tension lifted, the mood lightened as Mo Xiaotian's presence seemed to drag everyone into the chaos. Mo Xiaotian, a goldfish in memory, constantly forgot what was taught, leaving even the sharp Su Bi in distant Feng Lan frustrated. The torment continued right until the eve of midterms, and with one final problem explained, Su Bi, now grinning with a hint of menace, issued his warning. If you fail, you'll regret it after midterms. Under Su Bi's intense gaze, Mo Xiaotian, trembling, weakly promised, I'll try my best, to which Su Bi smiled even more, responding, not try. You will. With no other choice. Mo Xiaotian nervously nodded. Midterms slid by quietly, barely noticed until the scores dropped like comic panels revealing a twist. The grades leaderboard lit up. First was the ever-consistent overachiever, followed by silent strategists and calm tacticians, all from Class S, sweeping the top 5 like it was scripted. But none of them cared about the numbers. Their eyes darted off-panel, searching for the real main character Mo Xiaotian, and there he was, ranked 25th from the bottom. A deadpan silence swept the room as they stared at his barely passing scores, each one a breath away from failure, all between 60 and 62. Yet to Mo Xiaotian, it was a glorious win. He jumped high, fists up, shouting with a victory grin, I passed! I actually passed! Awesome! Woohoo! But his celebration was short-lived. Jiang Tianming froze his joy mid-air with a headlock and flat voice. I suggest you actually listen next time. We're not saving you again. Mo Xiaotian blinked, confused. What? As the scene froze like a manga panel, with Mo Xiaotian's frustration echoed through the halls as he wailed in despair. The cold sneers he faced were the least of his worries. His classmates had tried everything to help him succeed. They'd predicted exam questions, some even with slight variations, but despite their efforts, Mo Zhaotian's score barely hit 60. Their hard work had been wasted. It became clear that no amount of studying could save them. The weekend after midterms was filled with restless excitement among the first-year students. The campus festival was fast approaching, and with it, the school open day, an event where parents, distinguished alumni, and big names from the ability world would visit. Each class had to prepare something special, whether a performance, game, or shop. The day would be full of excitement, with the evening auction for adults marking a highlight. But while the teachers had a hand in setting it up, it was the student council who truly took charge. It was shaping up to be an event like no other. This was the busy thing Feng Man had warned about, and of course, every last member of Class S got pulled in. Now it was payback time. Si Xiaohua and the rest had to let Su Bi choose any job he liked. Choices? Security risky. Setup nonstop work. Reception annoying. Not exactly thrilling. After some thought, Su Bi picked guest reception. Sure, it was irritating, but at least no one could pin failures on him. Bonus, it gave him a front row seat to big names and their secrets. But before all that, Class S had their own festival project to survive. Monday's last period kicked off with manhwa barging in, wasting no time. What's your plan for the campus festival? Silence. Shock. Wait, they had to do something? Weren't they already conscripted by the student council? No one had a clue. Watching their stunned faces, manhwa smirked coldly. Every year ends with rankings. I'm not asking for first, but my classes have never been last. Break that record, and I break my rule about not hitting faces. Instant tension. Everyone knew manhwa had always spared their faces in training. That mercy might be over. Ye Lin was quick to heal the occasional blows to avoid the embarrassment of walking into the cafeteria with bruises. After all, nothing was more humiliating than showing up in last place. But avoiding such a fate wasn't simple. Their class, being the only Class S in school, became an easy target. If they did something average, they'd likely end up at the bottom, and if they messed up, it would only be worse. Even if they succeeded, someone would always find something to criticize. Finding the right approach was a real struggle. Manhwa, however, didn't seem to care about others' opinions. After giving his ultimatum, he walked off. A brief silence followed until Zhao Xiaoyu spoke up, suggesting that they rule out performances for the campus festival. It would be too difficult to find a good script and polish the acting skills in such a short time, not to mention performances being too subjective. Her words, though tactful, were clear to everyone. Then Jiang Tianming proposed an idea. How about a haunted house? A contract would be signed before entering, and those who were scared would have to vote for them. It was a brilliant idea. Other classes couldn't replicate it, and the contract would deter any visitors. Updated, saved memory. In a school with plenty of Class S students, they were sure to attract guests, so they had no problem being bold. Fear wasn't something you could hide easily, and nobody had to worry about others backing out. The plan was simple. Use their abilities to make the haunted house an unforgettable experience. Su Bi couldn't really use his ability here, so he'd have to play the part of a ghost to scare people. Along with Feng Lan, Wu Jin, Jiang Tianming, Mu Tiren, Si Xiaohua, and Qi Huang, they were all involved. Wu Jin's perfect face and ability made him the go-to guy for jump scares. The costumes, Ai Baozhu took charge of those, with Ling Yu helping out. Ai Baozhu, thrilled to finally have something in her wheelhouse, confidently said, "Don't worry, you won't recognize any of you." But Su Bi wasn't so sure. He didn't want to look like a clown. A poor one, 5-year-old high schooler stuck in a scary costume? No thanks. There was talk of whether to go for a Chinese or Western haunted house style, but it was decided a mix would be the best route, less risky and more creative. The night before the campus festival, the team got to work. Wu Mingbai had drawn up the blueprint, and that day, he started creating earth walls to carve the classroom into a maze. Inspiration struck after their recent maze experience, giving them the perfect direction. Zhao Xiaoyu took to painting red stains on the walls to mimic blood, complete with bloody handprints to give that horror movie vibe. Meanwhile, Mo Zhaotian set up air blocks to block off certain paths, ready for the planned chase scenes. This wasn't just any haunted maze, but an escape game where he and the others lurked as ghosts hunting the players. To crank up the scare factor, they even had manhwa knock through the wall to the next empty classroom, turning 2 classrooms about 4 times the size of a normal one into a sprawling maze. When dawn broke, A Baoju got to work transforming everyone. He flatly refused to look rotten or monstrous, so A Baoju turned him into a masked slasher instead. No need for face paint when a mask did the job. Dressed in black robes and gripping a blood-smeared dagger, he stood to the side, secretly pleased with how the look turned out. He'd even checked with Manga consciousness and learned this character really existed in the other world, a rare crossover. Seeing him ready, Zhao Xiaoyu reminded him his counter item was a gun one-shot and he'd be out. After all, these ghosts weren't invincible. Each one had a weakness from its movie lore, and his downfall was a headshot. Meanwhile, Jiang Tianming shuffled over in zombie makeup, glaring at the mask. Poking at it, he demanded to know why he didn't get one. Ai Baoju just shrugged. He'd insisted on it. Jiang Tianming snapped that he could have warned them, but he just copied Ai Baoju's shrug and pointed at Qi Huang stepping out. Smart people figure it out themselves. The morning of the campus festival was electric. As the crowd buzzed, a mysterious figure appeared, cloaked in white, with 2 large black eyes peeking out curious and eerie all at once. "How'd you know that's Qi Huang?" asked one of the students, his gaze flickering. But before anyone could respond, another chimed in with a grin. "Who else but Qi Huang would skip makeup?" The festival was a perfect storm of curiosity. Since their class, the first-year Class S, had been off on expeditions, no one had gotten a real glimpse of them. But now, on this day, it was time for everyone to see the prodigies in action. The maze escape attraction at their booth had drawn an eager crowd, with Zhao Xiaoyu handing out contracts to the first few visitors. A twist of irony lay hidden within those seemingly innocuous waivers. While the visitors signed up for fun, a vote was quietly tucked to the bottom. Who would be scared first? It was all part of the game, though. Most didn't notice the true challenge hidden beneath the surface. The group stood nervously at the entrance of the maze, their eyes wide as they read the daunting waiver. One person couldn't hold back a comment. "This rule's too much. Are we supposed to vote if we're scared? Aren't we afraid of losing guests?" Zhao Xiaoyu, calm and collected, pointed behind him. Turning around, they saw a long line of eager participants, and they fell silent. They weren't afraid of losing guests. The waiver only sparked curiosity about the escape maze. After everyone signed, Zhao Xiaoyu handed each a heart rate monitor with a reassuring tone. "This will protect you, alerting if your heart rate gets too high." In reality, it was a tool to track fear, ensuring that no one could deny their reactions when it came time to vote. Behind a door, Wu Mingbai chuckled. "Sounds so noble. If I didn't know better, I'd believe it," he remarked. As the first group entered the maze, one person screamed, eyes wide with fear. By the door stood a faceless figure in a suit, with strange, wriggling tentacles behind Wu Mingbai, dressed as a Slenderman-like figure. The figure didn't move, only controlling the tentacles to tap against the door. They saw a note with a warning. The maze is filled with ghosts chasing players. Items scattered throughout can either getting caught by a ghost? You're out. Escape the maze? You win prizes. Wu Mingbai, now dressed like a haunted butler, gives a creepy bow and gestures guests inside. One daring player asks if they can use their abilities to fight while running. Without a word, Wu flips the rule card on the back. Attacking staff is forbidden. Consequences apply. Translation? Hit him! And he hits back. Of course, some players lash out on instinct. The staff just dodges. No revenge unless it's on purpose. The maze becomes a thrill ride, tight corners, fast turns, heart-pounding chases. It's scarier than ghost stories and way more fun than maid cafes. Honest fear equals honest votes, and with a ballot box at the end, no one gets away without a reason. At noon, the core team, they didn't need to be ghosts in the afternoon, so they roamed freely. Some classmates even swapped shifts to spend time with family, leaving only 4 of them behind. The true loners. Subi noticed they were the only ones without any visitors. Even Mo Zhaotian had a grandfather in tow, though Subi was sure that wasn't his real face, but he'd memorized it. Walking through the vibrant campus, Subi felt a bit lost. He'd been to plenty of school festivals before, but none left an impression quite like this high school one. It wasn't the event itself or his involvement that stood out, but the intensity of the semester, which made these joyful moments shine brighter. A sigh escaped him as he thought of the evening ahead. It was fun for now, but the auction would demand his attention. An auction filled with enticing items where trouble was bound to stir. He hoped it wouldn't be too dangerous, especially for him. His job was to handle guest reception, keeping close to the VIPs, so it should be safe, right? But who knew if the threat was aimed at the items or the guests? Hearing his sigh, Jiang Tianming, ever alert, stiffened. The others followed suit, their expressions tense. "What did you see?" Jiang Tianming asked carefully. Su B, aware that warnings changed nothing, knew even if he pointed out potential issues with the auction, trouble would still find its way. That was simply how the story was meant to unfold. His brief, disheartening words wiped away any cheerfulness. Yet Su B found a strange satisfaction in seeing others upset. "Seeing you all unhappy makes me happy," he remarked, leaving everyone speechless. As they strolled through the various classes, they encountered many bizarre performances, including a juggling act that seemed out of place at an ability academy. The auditorium was filled with looping performances that only got more chaotic. Su B's group found themselves watching an absurd showdown between the 7 Calabash brothers and 007, escaping the painful spectacle in search of something more serious. Jiang Tianming, who had suggested the venue, was frustrated. "I thought this would be a serious performance," he muttered. Meanwhile, Lan Subing, having recommended the show, was met with Wu Mingbai's sarcastic remark, "Next campus festival. I'm tying her to the stage." The conversation turned unexpectedly serious when Wu Tian questioned what if Subing genuinely thought it was good. The silence that followed suggested that yes, it was possible. After exploring more classes, Jiang Tianming sighed, lamenting, "Our class was too conservative with our venue choice." Some classes went wild with creativity. One turned the whole school into an orienteering field. Another transformed the principal's office into an adventure zone, and one made a painting into a real-life game space. Over at the field, food, crafts, and intriguing ability creations filled the stalls. One stall offered a quirky stationery set, a pen with invisible ink, an eraser that revealed it, and 2 linked notebooks where writing in one showed up in the other. The seller claimed she gathered the items separately, a pure coincidence they worked together, yet she sold them as a set. Subi didn't hesitate to grab it, impressed by its potential for stealthy communication. Another eye-catcher was a card from a user who could store abilities, but these were knockoffs, single-use, time-limited, and only half as effective, though still practical given real ones cost more than storage rings. As the sun dipped, the campus festival wrapped up at exactly 6 p.m. It was Friday, so everyone except the student council had to leave until Monday. As darkness settled, the empty classrooms and fields turned quiet, while Su B and the others climbed onto a bus heading to the grand auction. Hosted by 3 powerful academies, the auction promised rare treasures to widen students' perspectives, though actually buying anything was nearly impossible for most. At the bustling venue, students set up tables, chairs, and food, while Mo Xiaotian's patrol team kept an eye out for trouble. Stepping off the bus, impressed by Subi's calm demeanor, the man inquired, "Hey kid, what grade are you in?" "Uncle Lu, I'm a first year," Subi replied politely, carefully observing his surroundings for any sign of trouble. "A first year at an event like this? You must be quite remarkable at school," the man remarked, surprised. As a non-ability user, he knew the academy wouldn't allow regular students to attend such events, where unprotected students would be the first targets in any danger. "Not that impressive. How great can a first year be?" Subi responded modestly, removing his jacket and placing it under the chair. He knew it looked messy, but teachers had emphasized it was fine on Fridays, so he'd clean it up tomorrow. The conversation with Vice Director Lu continued, the man asking about school life and not prying into anything personal, not even Subi's abilities. When the auction began, staff handed out glasses of water. Liu, parched from talking, drank his quickly, while Subi only pretended to sip his, setting it down afterward. He wasn't sure about the water's safety, but with trouble looming, he'd rather avoid taking any chances. Looking around, he saw Mo Xiaotian standing. The vice principal kicked things off, and soon Ye Lin, wearing a dark green qipao, stepped up to present the first item. The Academy's items were top tier, with the first being a substitute doll. A prop straight out of novels and manga, its use was clear. This choice set the tone, showcasing the Ability Academy's prestige. Subi, filled with envy, wondered what kind of ability could create such a treasure. As its purpose was explained, the crowd's excitement grew. Whether ordinary or an ability user, everyone wanted this item. The bidding started in the billions, soaring past 10 billion for just this first item. Even with 3 schools combined, this level of extravagance wasn't often seen. After the opener, the following items were ordinary, but for ability users, these were priceless mental energy potions, ability evolving fruits, and cloaks that granted invisibility without cooldowns. Subi couldn't help but curse his own poverty. Owning even one of these would allow him to create chaos. After 2 hours, a break came, and Subi joined his friends. Zhao Xiaoyu, flushed with excitement, whispered eagerly, "Can you guess what the finale item is?" The finale was always the most anticipated, often surpassing even the first item. Everyone was curious, though as mere escorts, they had no idea what the items were. But the finale of a 3-school auction promised in a stunning revelation. Zhao Xiaoyu whispered about an item that could awaken abilities in ordinary people, leaving everyone in shock. The idea that regular individuals could gain abilities was a game changer. If this became possible, the world would change drastically. The real reason behind the auction's large number of ordinary attendees became clear. Such an item could allow anyone to awaken their hidden potential, an opportunity too valuable to pass up. Despite the dangers lurking around the event, the thought of this item being up for grabs reassured the protagonist, realizing the enemies were likely focused on the items, not the guests. This insight allowed them to relax a bit, hoping to avoid unnecessary involvement in the unfolding drama. After all, Black Flash wouldn't risk targeting both the items and the guests, knowing how greed could backfire. As the event continued, a quiet tension lingered, but the protagonists felt determined to keep their focus on the task at hand. Lan Subing lowered her voice, worried. If something truly went wrong at an auction this big, it wouldn't just taint one academy, it'd throw shame across the entire ability world. No one could walk away clean. Mo Zhaotian looked blank, but before he could reply, Mu Tiran, sharp-eyed on patrol, muttered that most teachers who were supposed to be with them had vanished. Mo Xiaotian blinked, confused, then startled. He realized it was true. Lan Subing mentally kicked herself for expecting a useful answer from him. Wu Mingbai, with a grin too sunny to be sincere, told Mo Xiaotian to zip it and ask the class monitor if anyone knew where the teachers had gone. They still called Mu Tiran that class monitor because Class S never picked a new one. Mu Tiran just shook his head. The last teacher he saw only said, "Stick together, don't wander off, patrol well," then left. In a world where chaos reigns, the backstage breach left everyone on edge, and with a sudden blackout, panic seemed inevitable. Yet, in that moment of darkness, something unexpected occurred. A voice from the manga consciousness whispered in the protagonist's ear, revealing that the King of Abilities had just been updated. A surge of excitement filled him as he learned that over 80% of readers believed he was backed by an intelligence organization. The idea of forming his own group was now a reality, faster than he'd ever imagined. However, the situation was too critical to indulge in this newfound revelation, so he pushed aside the joy to focus on the present chaos. With the venue plunged into pitch-black darkness, the hall became eerily silent. No stampede, no panic. Only the quiet murmur of Uncle Lou, half asleep, broke the stillness. In the middle of a backstage breach, chaos reigns as the safety of the venue collapses. The tension escalates, and with a snap, the lights go out. A power outage. Amidst this, a voice interrupts the darkness. Manga consciousness updates. The shock? Readers now believe the protagonist is backed by an intelligence organization. With this, a new path opens. Should the protagonist build this organization or leave it to others? Just as the protagonist contemplates, the chaos around him intensifies. The hall plunges into darkness, and even though panic could have erupted, the silence is thick. In this calm chaos, the protagonist, caught between thrilling updates and looming threats, watches as the world outside continues to unfold Feeling incredibly drowsy, he slumped over the small table attached to his chair. One by one, others followed suit, sinking into a deep sleep. It was the water! Realizing the source, he pretended to feel the same, letting his body fall limp and pulling his hoodie's hood up to conceal his golden hair. Running away was out of the question. If the lights went out, they'd probably have night vision. The last thing he needed was to draw attention by standing up. As he lay there, he assessed the situation. Everyone else was unconscious, and it seemed someone was targeting the politicians. The scream backstage, was it a diversion? Or perhaps the mysterious figure had bold plans to snatch both the politicians and some valuable items? As an academy student, he assumed he would be ignored while they took the politicians. But that didn't mean they wouldn't see him as a future threat. He could be killed without a second thought. However, this was unlikely. The structured nature of their operation, especially at a 3 Academy auction, suggested they wouldn't act recklessly. He couldn't help but wonder how the others would get involved, but he doubted he'd be part of it. That suited him just fine. The boy slowly regained consciousness, his mind probing the surroundings with subtle energy. He realized he was inside a truck's cargo hold, surrounded by a dozen others, all unconscious except for him. His superior constitution, unaffected by the drugs that had knocked everyone else out, allowed him to wake up faster. His suspicion grew as he sensed his uncle nearby and guessed that the others were likely abducted politicians. Keeping his eyes closed, he waited. Being the first to wake could easily reveal his true identity as an ability user, especially since he was a kid. He decided to wait for the others to stir, hoping they'd remain asleep until the truck reached its destination. Once more than half had woken up, he finally opened his eyes. Some faces seemed familiar, and it struck him as almost ironic to see these high-profile politicians trapped like prisoners. As he glanced around, a few of the awakened individuals briefly noticed him, but when they saw it was a boy, their attention quickly faded. However, one concerned woman asked, "Whose kid are you? Damn it! They even took a child!" In a flash, the boy rubbed his eyes and activated a disguise, transforming his appearance into a plain, youthful look. Shrinking in a hidden corner of a truck's cargo hold, a dozen individuals lay unconscious, everyone except for one me. My unique constitution allowed me to awaken faster, untouched by the drugs that had knocked the others out. By focusing my mental energy, I confirmed the situation. I wasn't alone, and the presence of Uncle Lou nearby suggested that we weren't the only ones in this mess. The others, likely politicians, had been abducted for some unknown purpose. I kept my eyes shut, knowing that as the first to wake, my being a child could give me away as an ability user. I had to be cautious and wait for the others to stir. As time passed, one by one, they began to wake. Once more than half were conscious, I opened my eyes to survey the surroundings. The scene was almost absurd. These once powerful figures, now trapped like prisoners in a small cargo hold, their fate uncertain. Some of the others noticed me, but lost interest upon seeing a boy. Then, a concerned voice came from a woman in a business suit, who asked, "Whose kid are you, damn it? They even took a child!" Quickly, I rubbed my eyes and activated the transformation mask from the Academy's store, shifting my appearance to a more ordinary. In the dim, low-lit hold, the boy cleverly masked his true form hair dulled to brown, age trimmed down to 10, just enough to slip beneath suspicion. Too young to threaten, too ordinary to remember. His confused act was flawless. I came with my dad. I passed out. Did someone kidnap us? The woman bought it, her sigh mixing pity with mistrust of the ability academies. When asked, he claimed his father disappeared into the bathroom and never came back, a calculated detail exploiting the long auction and short breaks. She nodded, worry eased, and offered hope. He'll come save you. But then, from the shadows, a man scoffed. Sharp-suited and sharp-tongued, he challenged the lie. They stared at him, suspicious yet desperate, asking if his father was really just an ordinary man. How could someone like that be mixed up with ability users? The kid blinked innocently, claiming his father was normal but might awaken powers after the auction. A tiny lie dropped like bait. The room's tension cracked as interest faded. No one bothered with an ordinary man chasing the final item. They scoffed at the idea that a 10-year-old could scheme so far ahead. Yet frustration still flared. A man kicked the wall, cursing how ability users toyed with them so easily. A woman sighed, hoping the academy had real strength, because ordinary people like them had no shield against those with power. As she lamented, the kid's eyes drifted to the coin-sized bulge in her pocket, mind whirring. In a world where ordinary people were at a disadvantage against ability users, weapons brought a sense of security. Despite the country's gun ban, one woman managed to possess a handgun, leaving a sense of surprise. As tensions rose, a man regained consciousness, quickly deducing that they'd been kidnapped. His shock intensified when he noticed a child among the captives. The woman shared his sentiment, questioning the logic of bringing a child into this dangerous situation. Meanwhile, other captives debated their escape plans, while one young observer silently assessed their situations, noting that some had a fate sealed by downward-pointing destiny gears. With no kindness to spare, the observer decided not to waste energy on changing. The truck ride felt like a blur. The small ones were easy to deal with, but the larger ones could drain half of my mental energy. Outside, the road was deserted, overrun by weeds, with no clear destination for the truck. Inside, I focused my mental energy on the cab, where I found 3 people, 1 woman and 2 men. None looked particularly strong, but strength and ability users wasn't about physique. They were clearly confident in their control to escort a dozen of us. But then a thought hit me: was I really separated from the others? Was I the only one taken? I didn't mind getting into trouble for a good plot, but if this was just a random event, I had no interest. After all, if I was the only one taken, it would never be drawn in this way. I began to relax. The truck could hold about a dozen people, but there were supposed to be 34 of us. Even if some were in the restroom, there was no way it could only be this few. Most likely, others were in a different vehicle, and we'd meet up soon. Deciding not to stir up trouble for now, I closed my eyes. I had unfinished business. The consciousness responded to Subi's deception with an offer. Since the readers believed he had backing from a secret intelligence group, the manga could now generate one to match. Subi refused the challenge of building it himself as a child. It was illogical and exhausting. Instead, he gave clear instructions. Establish the group 5 years ago, right after his father's death. It would operate by trading intelligence for points, with anonymous members using a specific stationery set for contact. Inspired by today's purchases, he added one last request: have someone deliver the notebook to a pen pal, while others circulate the pen and eraser. In a world where ownership is fluid and time is twisted, the protagonist concocts a plan to create a closed loop of item exchange, buying and selling them back to the past. It seems like an odd strategy, but it guarantees ownership and reduces risk. In an intriguing turn of events, Manga Consciousness agrees to recruit creators into their organization. The protagonist, not content with just this, pushes for recruitment across powerful organizations, from ability academies to major governmental bodies. However, Manga Consciousness shoots it down, pointing out that a simple exchange of information requires something of value in return. Realizing this flaw in the plan, the protagonist is forced to reconsider their approach. Manga Consciousness calls out the naivety of expecting something for nothing, emphasizing the necessity of offering something unique to build a strong network. A tough lesson learned. Even the most ambitious plans require real substance to succeed. Using the shell of his childhood self to build an empty organization felt like a bad joke until he found the hook. Everyone already believed his ability awakened early, so why not bait them with changing fate? That rumor, useless until now, became his golden ticket. Early awakening might mean more chances to return, and that was priceless. Manga Consciousness got the memo, promised to handle it quietly, and vanished until the next update. He stifled the thrill and shut his eyes just in time for a man to rattle him awake with a fake smile and a suspiciously kind question about bathroom breaks. He played along, yawning like a drowsy kid, but he saw the game. While he slept, the adults had splintered. Some clung to hope and rescue. Others schemed to flee when guards relaxed. The attempt to escape under the pretense of needing the bathroom was nothing but a trick to slip away unnoticed. The narrator, not wanting to be the fall guy, knew full well that the plan would fail. If things went wrong, they would be blamed. With a firm shake of the head, the narrator turned down the suggestion. "I don't need to," was the response. But the other persisted, coaxing with a mint candy, trying to bribe the narrator into playing along. Go tell the drivers you need the bathroom and I'll give you this, all right? But the narrator wasn't fooled. With a playful, innocent tone, they asked, but I really don't need to? And then, feigning surprise, added, is Uncle scared to go alone and wants me to come? Embarrassment flickered in the other's eyes before they admitted it. Yes, they needed the company to avoid the dark outside. But the narrator wasn't buying it. Mom says kids my age shouldn't be scared to go alone, they said, showing some sympathy, but also standing firm. You should learn to go by yourself. Before the other could react, the narrator pulled out a lollipop, mimicking their earlier coaxing. If you go alone, I'll give you this, okay? The tables had turned. Uncle Lou sneered, mocking the boy's innocence with a laugh that dripped with disdain. He refused to join the escape plan, knowing failure would doom them all unless someone betrayed them, but who would? No one believed escape was futile, so no one dared to think of snitching. The trickster who once fooled the boy cast him a glare, then dismissed him without blame, as if tricking a child was beneath his regret. As the group whispered again, the boy quietly unwrapped a lollipop, hunger gnawing at him after hours without food. Teen bodies burned fast. 5 or 6 hours felt like a famine. A woman snapped, suggesting they just pry the lock and jump, urging generosity for the sake of salvation. But silence answered her call. Lockpicking was taboo, a skill soaked in suspicion, even if not a crime. No politician would admit to knowing it. But the boy? He did know it, learned not from darkness, but from necessity. A small trick, hidden in the kidnappers underestimated the situation. They believed that by picking the lock, they could escape. But they were wrong. These weren't ordinary kidnappers. They were ability users, capable of much more than their prey realized. Despite his own powers, the protagonist knew that only someone as skilled as he could escape. The others were ordinary people who didn't understand the true power difference between them and the kidnappers. They still saw weapons like guns as a solution, thinking they could bridge the gap between the capable and the normal. But the reality was far more complex. Even though ability users could be hurt by bullets, those with superior abilities were almost impossible to hit. Their heightened senses and reaction times allowed them in a tense standoff. Weapons meant little against those with true power, and most civilians couldn't grasp just how powerless they really were. One woman urged calm, warning that fighting back was useless and panic would only worsen things. But a man in the crowd scoffed, branding her a coward and dragging gender into the argument. That backfired immediately. Another woman fired back, exposing his hypocrisy and mocking his fragile pride. The sharp exchange didn't just fracture the group, it exposed deeper cracks beneath the fear, where prejudice flared louder than reason, and words became sharp. He stammered, face flushed, retreating into silence. He knew those words could destroy him if heard by the wrong ears. The hold fell still. Phones flicked out instinctively. No signal, of course, but for one, it wasn't about signal. He dove into manga and forums, hunting for a clue, maybe a hint about their captors. The others, disinterested after checking their own phones, faded into boredom. A woman glimpsed his screen and sighed, teasing his devotion to studying even now. He brushed it off politely and kept reading. The latest update seemed trivial. Midterms, campus festival, cheerful panels of normal life. Useless, maybe, but familiar. Then grades dropped. Hidden in the page, without the forums, he wouldn't have known. The author slipped intel in. Was he even human? At least his grades were good. The manga unfolds like a series of fragmented memories, where characters begin to regain their words and agency, reshaping the world they inhabit. The action picks up at an auction, where the main focus shifts to Jiang Tianming, a worker at the venue, uncovering strange occurrences. From touched desserts to fleeting shadows and odd noises, he's thrust into a chaotic scene that feels like a horror movie. As he tries to resolve one issue after another, the situation only worsens. Meanwhile, a group of bandits attacks, overpowering the teachers, and the student patrol team, led by Mo Xiaotian, faces more perilous encounters. The lights go out, and the manga ends with a dramatic cliffhanger. However, as the narrative progresses, a shift occurs. The characters, once bound by predefined arcs, start to explore their own paths, with some gaining the ability to write their own stories. Su, Bi, now more a guide than a protagonist, watches as new voices emerge, signaling the beginning of a fresh narrative. The once rigid structure of the manga begins to fade into the situation wasn't what it seemed at first. The group that took them wasn't the same as the ones responsible for the chaos. Those were clearly the Black Flash, known for their strong members who could stall the teachers. But this new group, they weren't nearly as organized or strong, relying on luck more than skill. The distraction caused by the Black Flash allowed them to grab their target. The realization hit hard, a mix of amusement and frustration. If only they had known the attackers were weak, things would have been different. But now, escaping would be useless. Following them to their destination was the only choice. They needed to understand their goal. Opening the forum, the usual slice of life posts filled the screen, with little to discuss. One post caught their attention, theorizing the presence of at least 2 active groups. Most posts were fan art characters, including them, were drawn with varying levels of detail. Even the faceless characters, like the protagonist and their companions, had their art, though the protagonist's artwork showed them lifting their mask, revealing a glimpse of their face. One post humorously complained about the lack of face reveals for certain. In a world where the blank pages breathe life, the characters evolve, and the very narrative shifts as if guided by unseen hands, the story takes a dramatic turn. A woman with a high ponytail and 2 men step into the scene, only to be met by an unexpected attack. A politician fires a hidden gun at the woman, but as the bullet inches toward her, it falls with a sharp clink, stopped by an unseen force. Without flinching, the woman calmly smiles, offering a volunteer to make an example of. As her hand extends, and the shooter is suddenly yanked toward her, his neck gripped firmly in her control. Amidst this tense moment, a character activates their ability, scanning the shooter's fate with wide eyes. Sensing the threads of destiny for the first time ever, the skill user saw something unexpected, a small pointer pointing downward. Previously, small pointers had always stayed in the upper half, left for smooth sailing, right for trouble. But now, the downward pointer made its meaning clear. Death. Without hesitation, she snapped the shooter's throat in midair, tossing him aside like trash. "I've killed the chicken!" she sneered. "You monkeys better behave. Want to be next? I don't mind playing butcher again." The scar-faced man barked orders. "Get down, one by one. Line up. No chaos, or I'll kill you." The display of power left everyone terrified. They jumped off obediently, too scared to even think about escaping her suction ability, crushed any hope of flight. When it was the narrator's turn, the woman stopped. "Who grabbed a kid this young?" she asked. The buzz-cut man scratched his head in confusion. "I think it was me, but I swear he wasn't this small." With his strong night vision, he'd grabbed the guests, but the narrator, the only teen among adults, he looked small and scared, hesitating at the edge, an act perfected through months of training, his fear as flawless as his timing. The scarred man snapped, demanding action, while another dismissed the hesitation, noting the boy's presence was enough. When he finally moved, a woman intercepted him with gentle curiosity, asking his age. 8, he answered, shrinking himself into innocence. "It worked." She believed him, even asked if he came with a parent. He recited his fake identity, and she, satisfied, waved him on. Another woman whispered reassurances his father would come. Just listen and stay calm. But his attention was elsewhere. Uncle Lou. The boy's sharp senses caught Lou's eyes lingering too long. Despite changing his hoodie's pattern, the black hood and their earlier proximity sparked recognition. Liu hadn't suspected him at first, but the buzz-cut man's careless words fanned the old. He was certain that there was no proof linking me to the blonde teen he'd encountered. Without evidence, his silence spoke volumes. If I were an ability user, however, it would only benefit them. The woman's gun was powerless against ability users, and having one among us could ensure our safety. True enough, Uncle Lou quickly turned his gaze elsewhere, saying nothing. As he observed me, I took in the surroundings. No wonder it felt so desolate. We were climbing a mountain, and a cliff loomed ahead. A man's voice quivered. "They're not making us jump, are they?" "Shut your mouth!" the kind woman snapped, and everyone glared at him. They had all feared it, but no one wanted to voice it. Once the hostages were unloaded, the woman and a man without scars approached. The man with the scars was setting something by the cliff. Having witnessed Lei Zhang's ability, I guessed he was preparing a teleportation array. According to teacher Lei, teleportation was no easy feat. Unless one was gifted with the teleportation ability, like a voice broke the eerie silence, rising from the base of a cliff, teasing with a mocking question. Really just one left? Everyone turned in shock, only to see a woman with a ponytail floating up. A man with a buzz cut appeared next, gripping the cliff's edge with a sneer in his eyes. He mocked his opponent. "You'll pay for your ignorance," before landing a brutal punch that silenced his target with a sickening thud. The impact left a lasting horror in everyone's minds, more chilling than the earlier death. The woman brushed her hands nonchalantly, ensuring there would be no more chickens before starting the next phase. A glow enveloped them, and in a flash, the surroundings shifted. Disoriented, some people collapsed, unable to withstand the dizziness, while one person faked unconsciousness, scanning their new environment with hidden focus. Among them was a familiar face, a student from the academy, equally pretending to be out cold. Before anyone could react, a soft, mocking voice drifted up from the cliff's base, making everyone freeze. A woman with a ponytail rose calmly into view, while a hand clutched the rocky edge. It was the buzz-cut man, pupils thin and cold as he climbed up with ease, his grin slicing through the tension. He sneered at the trembling man with parted hair, promising punishment for foolishness, then without a hint of mercy, slammed his fist down, ending the whimpering with a sick. Zhao Xiaoyu had made her move cleverly, hiding her true intentions. She pretended to be unconscious, allowing her to observe everything unnoticed. As the test began, a man with a machine walked in, the kind used to evaluate abilities before admission. He handed it over, warning her about the consequences if she had lied. Zhao Xiaoyu, with a calm expression, assured him that she was only a Class F student and nothing more. She had downplayed her potential, allowing them to underestimate her. Despite her seemingly useless ability, her physical prowess had been honed through sheer hard work. She had become the third strongest physically, right behind two others. In close combat, the duo of a ponytailed woman and a scar-faced man stood no chance. The machine confirmed her ability was indeed weak, but the man's sneer couldn't shake her. He mocked her school for accepting students with such trash abilities. Zhao Xiaoyu, unbothered, shrugged and expressed her disinterest in being there. For her, this was just an inconvenient delay in her real studies, and the lack of an ability license made it unavoidable. The man, dismissing her with a wave, warned her not to stir trouble. The situation took an unexpected turn. The man's foreign origins had escaped notice during the mental energy surveillance. A foreign group kidnapping high-ranking officials signaled something much bigger was at play. After his departure, Zhao Xiaoyu's expression darkened as she gazed at the unconscious politicians. Their abduction at the auction wouldn't bring trouble to the school, and by extension, to them. But there was hope. Saving these politicians could change everything. This wasn't just any auction. It involved 3 major schools, with no one school leading. If things went wrong, the blame would be shared, and their school wouldn't bear the full burden. The priority now was clear. Protect these influential figures. Zhao's focus shifted to the crowd, stopping on one unfamiliar face. Who was this child? She had memorized the guest list, and no child had been invited. Her sharp memory didn't fail her, but perhaps a user of special abilities had brought the child along. After all, the student council had been handling regular attendees, while in a world where stories breathe on their own, a mysterious kid might be connected to a powerful ability user. This could mean protection or even a deeper bond. The story twists as characters are forced to wake up, but some are more alert than others. As the tension builds, one of the kidnappers becomes suspicious of an unexpected guest who's awoken, questioning whether she's a student or another ability user. The situation is tricky, and the protagonist, hiding in the shadows, isn't sure whether revealing their identity will help or hinder their plans. It's a game of strategy where staying hidden could yield more than stepping into the light. As more people drop into the scene, confusion grows, but there's a glimmer of a shimmering blade of water materialized in her hand, pointed directly at Zhao Xiaoyu as she demanded, "Who are you?" But Zhao Xiaoyu stood calm and steady, declaring herself a tested student from Class F of the Ability Academy, relaying that someone told her to stay put. At the mention of a test, the group eased up, relying on the judgment of whoever had brought her. They knew Class F rumored to house only those with abilities so weak they were practically useless, just placeholders for licenses. Curious, the woman with the scorpion braid inquired about her ability. Zhao Zhao Yu gave the same reply, prompting their visible relief. She casually asked if the others were just regular people. The woman pointed to a silver-haired boy lying unconscious and questioned if she knew him. Zhao Xiao Yu's eyes flickered with false wariness, replying she'd wait for Brother Sunday. Before the woman could press further, a nearby man suggested Brother Zhao was likely the one who brought them. The woman raised an eyebrow, half mocking, half teasing, asking if Zhao Xiaoyu refused to speak without him. Did she like him? Or was this Stockholm Syndrome? Inside, she hid her disdain behind a facade of shy annoyance, muttering, "No way! I only know his identity, not yours. How can I speak?" She knew that acting clueless would make them lower their guard. As expected, the woman let it slide, lazily suggesting, "Call Little Sunday, his eye of truth ensures she can't lie." Soon, Brother Sun arrived. Zhao Xiaoyu, facing him, stated, "I know him. He's in my class," Brother Sun confirmed. "She's telling the truth," the scorpion braid woman scoffed. "A Class F kid fought so hard? Like he could beat us," her companion sneered. "No wonder he didn't use his ability, it's too weak to show." It all clicked. Zhao Xiaoyu had cleverly played the situation. Knowing Brother Sun's ability could detect lies, she waited until his presence to claim Si Xiaohua was her classmate. By establishing herself as a Class F student, they'd assume the same about him, allowing her to lower their guard. The question remained. He knew using that would expose him. His identity was too valuable, too dangerous. As a member of the Sai family, if the kidnappers found out, escape would be impossible. So he held back, let Zhao Xiaoyu shield him for now. But the scorpion braid woman noticed the out-of-place kid plain, quiet, yet undeniably there. "Who's this boy?" she asked. Zhao Xiaoyu denied knowing, even though her curiosity flared. The buzzcut man answered coolly, "Politician's kid. Wrong seat. So we took him." Still, the woman wasn't satisfied. "You sure he's normal?" she pressed, hoping for more power, more threat. The man confirmed it camera footage, matching statements, no sign of deception. She sighed, disappointed. A mere child wouldn't fake innocence that thoroughly. Still, a politician's child carried weight. Her memory was clear. No brown-haired kid belonged to a politician. But the buzzcut man's words made sense. Could a child of 8 or 9 really lie so calmly, hiding their identity, or even understand its importance? Was this kid unusually clever, or had she missed something? All right, let's go. The scorpion braid woman, with no one else stirring, had other matters to attend to and left in haste. Before leaving, she shot Zhao Xiaoyu a warning. "Keep them quiet when they wake, or you'll regret it." Soon after, Si Xiaohua woke, pretending to faint. Exchanging a knowing glance with Zhao Xiaoyu, he asked, "Where are we? Are we saved?" Zhao Xiaoyu explained the situation, then grumbled about her bad luck. Si Xiaohua joined in, also complaining. They seemed like a pair of losers. As others awoke and learned the situation from Zhao Xiaoyu, some of them nervously asked, "Kid, when's your school coming to save us?" Zhao Xiaoyu reassured them, "Uncles, aunties, don't worry. The school will save us." For a girl barely 15 stood amid adults decades older, her calm presence enough to steady their nerves. But curiosity sparked the bespectacled man who had once tried to coax her with sweets, now asked, politely, "What are your abilities?" Zhao Xiaoyu's bitter smile said more than her words. She was Class F, the lowest tier, and her gift merely made people laugh. Careful not to provoke suspicion from Brother Sun's eye of truth, she deflated any interest in her classmate Si Xiaohua's powers. After all, if she was weak, what threat could he pose? The man in glasses chuckled, skeptical but intrigued, noting how odd it was for underachievers to join such elite activities. She replied with perfect calm midterm excellence. "Teacher's reward." The answer held. He backed off. Just then, the boy stirred, eyes fluttering open, playing the innocent. Where are we?" In a quiet moment, Zhao Xiaoyu gave me a puzzled look, then asked, "Can you tell me your dad's name?" I hesitated. carefully pitching my voice higher to sound younger, and replied cautiously, "Surname Yan." It wasn't the whole name, just enough to keep my options open if things took a turn. Zhao Xiaoyu seemed to remember Mr. Yan and nodded, as if piecing together a puzzle. Her smile reassured me, but there was still the uncertainty lingering. "Don't worry, we'll get out safely," she said, ruffling my hair as if to ease my fears. Si Zhaohua, however, tried the same, but I quickly dodged, not willing to risk the same treatment. Keeping the secret was hard enough, and the idea of them laughing at me once the truth came, Si Zhaohua couldn't help but tease as he saw me dodge, asking with a mischievous grin, "What? She can pat you, but I can't?" I barely acknowledged him with a half-hearted nod, pretending I wasn't amused. He kept the fun going, asking if I'd accept $500 to let him pat my head. I casually shot back, "No thanks." Not willing to let it end there, I added, "No amount works." Zhao Xiaoyu, watching, chuckled, remarking that I had taste and backbone. "He's from a family that can attend our auction. Would he bend for money?" she quipped, adding weight to my refusal. I nodded, seriously in agreement, then threw out an offer. "I'll give you $501 to let me pat your head. Deal?" The audacity of it! If I could manage that, I'd walk away with both the money and a nice story to tell. Before Sai Zhaohua could react, Zhao Xiaoyu flashed a grin. Si Zhaohua, now amused, reached to grab my collar, eager for some playful affection. I twisted away, dodging his attempt. This time, a flicker of surprise crossed his face. Dodging a pat on the head was expected, he hadn't been trying too hard. But to evade his intentional grab, that was something else entirely. He moved swiftly, most adults couldn't manage it, let alone kids. Yet here I was, slipping away from him. Had his reflexes slowed? Before he could even think about it, Uncle Lou, watching our exchange, chuckled. "You three almost made me forget we're in a hostage situation," he said with a grin. "You seem so close." His words left Zhao Xiaoyu and Si Zhaohua momentarily stunned. They hadn't realized how naturally we'd been interacting, like old friends with no barriers between